cool. I'm going to hit the go live link. So here we go.
Okay.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to day 3 of the National Coaching Symposium. We've had 2 great days of education and sharing with coaches from all over the country and some of the best in the field. And we're excited for what the last day will bring. A couple quick housekeeping notes before we dive into this. If you missed either of the prior 2 days, the links for the videos are down below in the agenda. You can click on the day, so Monday, Tuesday, whatever, and you'll see the video in there, as well as a number of the presentations. We're continuing to add more. For today, there's actually some supplementary resources. There's a video that Luther has kindly asked us to share that you can find in there as well. And I want to thank Regatta Craft Mixers, who have made this all possible as our presenting sponsor. They've been awesome, and as always, are a really good partner. So last piece from my end is make sure that you give us feedback on what you think. Presentation links, the evaluation links for the last 2 days are on this page as well, but also there's one for today. If you fill it out, at the end of it, you're prompted to enter in your name and info, and Regatta Craft Mixers will send you a gift pack. Unfortunately, you don't get one for each day you fill out the evaluation. You only get one. I appreciate those of you that have tried to get more than one, but we really do appreciate the feedback. It helps us, and the product's awesome too. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to Luther Carpenter to take it away for day 3.
All right. Thank you, Stu. Really follow up what Stu's telling you about the links with PowerPoints available for download. And then I also posted 2 videos of me coaching boat speed that I think you'll find quite interesting. It'll talk about everything that was in that presentation, and you'll actually hear how I use video and the way I'm coaching the sailors on the water. Hey, this morning we got Charlie McKee with an exciting presentation. Charlie and I are the same age. We started sailing 470s at the same time. We have a lot of things in common. We're lifelong friends. And he has a whole world of experience. He went to the Olympics and won a bronze medal in the 470. He then moved on to America's Cup. And then I talked him into coming back to the Olympic world on and off for many years. And then he's, of course, been coaching with ODP in the last 4 years. And we're just, he has the passion and the interest that all of us share. So Charlie, take it away and teach us.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for the opportunity for this. It's always great to be able to talk about coaching, things that we've learned from each other and with each other. So despite some of the challenges this year, I had a pretty cool experience going and doing a coaching camp at the Columbia River Gorge. So I wanted to share sort of what things I learned from it, and we can chat a little bit about the end at any questions you have in more details about it. So the name of this talk is the Kaizen method, and we're gonna roll through here, hopefully. So Kaizen is a principle used in, or popularized at least, in Japanese business practice that has many translations and definitions, but sort of the basic one is good change or change good. And the essence of it is continuous incremental improvement. So the people who espouse this see improvement as a gradual, methodical process by which, companies, organizations, people, personal life, by which you make yourself better and happier by being involved in this incremental process of becoming a better person and a better company. So there's a lot of corollary and related things. It's often referred to as lean manufacturing. It's most popular worldwide, known as one of the major tenets of the Toyota Way. And it's more technically referred to as parts of it as the Deming cycle or the Shewhart cycle, and known in business parlance as PDCA as well, which we'll get to in a minute. So it's been around a long time. And I'm just going to sort of start by summarizing a little bit of the, parts of it, and then we're going to talk about, why are we talking about this, basically. So you guys can, read this yourself, but this is just a pretty good, simple explanation of what it is and the dual nature of it. So the important parts are that employees at all levels of a company. So if you change some of these words to a team or a group or a sport, and you change manufacturing process to learning how to sail, it all sort of makes a lot of sense. Combining the collective talents within the group to create a powerful engine for improvement. The part that was kind of a revelation for me a little bit is the part action plan and part philosophy. The action plan is do things to systematically improve, and you don't need to have some great huge idea, we're going to build cars a different way, or we're going to do this. We're going to just get better at we're doing what we're doing. And one of the ways that we're going to get better is to take everyone's ideas, take input from everyone. So, you can imagine in the post-World War era that this was a pretty big revelation, that you're going to ask the lowest workers on the shop floor how they should be building cars. And if you want to boil it down to its simplest thing, that's what, companies like Toyota have incorporated into their culture. And so that's very similar to the culture that we want, that we don't want to be just talking to our sailors. We want us all together feel like we're learning together. And that's the philosophy part, the building the culture part. And, it's real. And, that last sentence, in truly lean companies, becomes a natural way of thinking for both managers and plant floor employees. So change those words to becomes a natural way of thinking for both coaches and sailors, that we're doing this together. So here's the back a little bit to what is the Kaizen method? 5 founding elements: teamwork, personal discipline, improved morale, quality circles, suggestions for improvement. Okay, a bunch of words. Okay, so, now how did we, I'll go back to this for now. Why am I sitting here talking about this? Jim Menzies from Quantum Racing, who before he, retired and got all involved in supporting youth sailing, he worked at Procter & Gamble for a long time. And he's been Quantum Racing's been a huge supporter of youth sailing and the ODP in particular. And he prompted me about this Kaizen method of learning. And it was a time when we happened to be organizing a training camp in the Columbia River Gorge for our top US 49er teams. So, we were going to do this 10-day camp. It was 2 5-day sessions. And like anything, there's so many things to work on for all of us as coaches at any level, whether it's, the most basic, try to be able to leave the dock, try to be able to tack and get back, how do you dock your boat, how do you tack and jibe, to the very highest level of Olympic sailing. For all of us, we have this long list of things that we need to work on, and there's never enough time. And how are we going to apportion our limited time to try to be more effective? So we, the sailors and I, decided that we were going to try to apply these principles of Kaizen, and specifically how it related to boat handling. That we were still going to do our other things. We were going to do our boat speed work, and we were going to do starting practice, and we were going to do racing and tuning. But when we went to practice boat handling, we were going to figure out how we could more systematically learn in a more efficient manner. So the first thing we had to do was like, what is Kaizen? What does it mean? Because none of us really knew anything about it. So we started the camp by the first thing we did when we got there was we sat down. This is 6 sailors, 1 coach, and we sat down and we talked about these foundations of the Kaizen method and what these 5 things meant for us. How did they apply to what we were trying to do? That's what they're trying to do. And this is what they came up with. This is their interpretation of Kaizen and what it meant for them. Teamwork. We're going to help each other learn faster. And this, I won't spend too much time on this group of people, but they, 100% believe in this teamwork, help each other get to the top. So conceptually, they've already been doing this. They didn't need to be convinced that this was a thing to do. They just needed help of how can we do it more efficiently. The second thing, personal discipline. And this is their words. Try hard, be on time, and be responsible to each other. So that's a big deal in any setting where we're trying to, help people to become better. Is if they feel a responsibility to each other, without each other, they won't learn as well. So they were on time, their boat work was done, they were eager to learn, and they were eager to share. The improved morale part, it was just, it's working. They knew this was going to work. It was already working for them, and we were just putting a little more structure around it. The quality circles, we'll come back to that, because that was the heart of what we ended up doing. And the suggestions for improvement, okay, the Toyota way is they would have anyone could go and put a suggestion of, I think we should do this differently, or I think there's a better way to install the seats in the car, or I think there's a better way of this or that. And it wasn't a top down, it was a bottom up thing. So that's easier when we're all equal. When it's a bunch of sailors and a coach, we're all in this together. And of course, we're going to listen to everyone's suggestions for improvement. But the rapid cycle improvement requires giving many, many opportunities for people to say what they think about the process. Otherwise, it's us preaching for them. And it was easy for them, and for us as coaches, it requires a little bit of a mindset. If we think, oh, we know more than them and we're teaching them what they know, but what we really want to get to is they believe that we're all teaching each other, and that what they think and what they feel is being listened to and incorporated. And if nothing else, that makes everyone feel like this is a more worthwhile thing to be involved with. So the cycle, or the Deming cycle, or the circle of improvement. There's many, many words for it, but it's very simple. This this applies to everything. Identify the issue. Plan, how can we go about improving it? Execute on that plan, and then review what we've done. Okay, so this is what we sat there on the beach the first day and learned. This was all we really needed to know about Kaizen. And we said, okay, that's what we're going to do. When it comes to boat handling, we're going to do this. We're going to do this cycle. And the more times we do it, the better we will be. And this isn't just do something more times and you get better. It's every time around this circle will be, the learning process will be better from the last time, because we're not just going to do attack 100 times. We're going to learn each time how to make making the drill a little bit better. So here's the 4 aspects of the cycle. 1, identify a specific issue to work on. Okay. Discuss a very specific skill we're attempting to learn and improve about, and break the skill down into small components. So we ended up focusing on just 4 little boat handling things that we were going to get better at. And they chose them. They prioritized that we need to be better at this. And I'll try not to veer off too much, as is my normal tendency. But one of them, and the one that we'll see at the end, is coming into a windward mark on port, tacking, bearing away, and setting the spinnaker in heavy air. And it's a hard move. And what happens when you do it is you end up not being able to do a tight enough circle, and you're afraid of flipping. And so you end up a little bit cautious, and you end up too high starting the downwind, and you end up in a bad tactical situation where you're pinned and you're held out to the corner, and it can make your next 15 minutes difficult. So they identified this as a crucial skill that they needed to have, and they needed to be better at it. And what we quickly realized was that attempting to practice this skill was so tiring for the crews that it wasn't practical to do repeat drills like we would normally do to learn a skill. So we broke it down into the components and would do the turn without setting the spinnaker. And so the entire rest of the camp, when we did this drill, we would do everything except set the spinnaker, because if we set the spinnaker, the crew had to pull it up, jump out on the wire, pull the kite sheet in, jump back in, pull it down, jibe, turn, go back upwind, and do it again. And they could do that like 4 times, and then they were wasted. Okay. So instead, we together figured out a modification to this drill to make it easier and more repeatable, and we could still get at the crucial parts of the component we wanted to. So that was the plan, the specific drill to attack the issue. And, the input from them, this is the stage of the process before we're doing it, where you can absolutely solidify that we're all in this together. Then the rest is simple. We just execute the plans and we keep doing it. Okay. That's it. That's all we did. We would go out. We would try to do something. We would come in. We would talk about what we had done. We would go back out in more wind, and we would try it again with the refinements of the drill and or the way that they would do the maneuver based on what had been learned in the morning session. And then we would come back in, and they would rest and recover, and we would talk about it again. And then we would go back out in even more wind. And the gradual systematic improvement, it's real and it works. And the reason why it's what makes this different than what we normally do was partly the setup. We're in a place and where it's easy to do this, we can go in and out, and partly it's the dedication, but partly it's the commitment to the review process. We don't just say, this is what we're going to do. We're going to do this drill and go out and then come in and go, some were good, some were bad, and here's some videos. We would come in and talk in really detail about what was good, what was bad. Is it better if the crew keeps the main through the whole maneuver when it's over 15 knots, or should he be dropping it and the skipper picking it up? How much jibbies should he have going into it? Those kind of little details were all led by them. And the coach is just the facilitator of it. And you're open to any and all ways of doing things. We're not telling them what to do. We're asking them what they think, suggesting little ways to improve the methodology of doing it. And so we would do that, several times a day. And, like Luther says, we'd mix it up and we'd be doing other things. But each session, we would do, 15 minutes of each of these drills. And then at the end of the day, of course, they're exhausted and they get their recovery drinks and they stretch and then they go home. And I would just airdrop the videos to them on the beach, no commentary, no anything. And they would go home, and that night they would look through them all. And they would come back the next morning and we would meet and they would show the coach the videos of, this is what we think is good, this is what we think is not good, and our preliminary conclusions are this. Something as detailed as, the crew should trim the main up into the tack, and then on his first step across, he should drop it, and the skipper could pick it up. We looked at both ways, but we think this way is better. We're not sure what the crossover in the wind is, but that's what we're thinking right now. Okay, let's go back out and do it again. And my final point about sort of this review process and what I learned is that you don't stop when you've learned how to do something. You keep going until you can consistently do it, because they need to do this in, a high pressure, stressful situation, and they need to know that they have mastered this skill. And the confidence that you need in those moments comes from the preparation. And the preparation comes from knowing that you've done it enough that I know the right way to do it, and it'll just sort of naturally take over. And we're in such a rush to teach, and we have such a long list of things that we could teach and should teach, that as soon as we see something done well, we say, okay, move on to the next thing, cross it off the list. But we know that 6 months later, that skill will not be solidified. And this is the part that it doesn't matter whether we're at top level talking about, tack setting, or whether we're talking about how to get the main down and get into the dock when the dock's on a windward shore. Whatever level we are trying to teach or coach at, we need to keep them going in little doses, doing things until they know that they know how to do it. They believe in themselves that they have learned that skill. So that was kind of my takeaway from that. And so here's, we like I said, we chose 4 things that they wanted to become more proficient at. And here's one of them. And what I'll say about this is 50 video clips that they've gone through and taken the good and the bad and what are the lessons and what are their golden rules and what have they decided is the right way to do it. This is at the end of 10 days that they've done this. So I think 19 sessions we had, that they have finally concluded to these are the important things, and this is what we think about when we're doing this maneuver. And all of this that you're about to see is them. This is their learning. This is their conclusions. This is we together as a team of 6 on 3 boats believe this is the way to do tack barrelways.
Alrighty, hey guys, this is Dane here, and I'm going to talk you guys through a tack barrelway. Pretty tricky maneuver, especially in some breeze, and here are some key elements to think about to make sure it's nice and easy and executed well. So we're coming in here on port ley line. Right now, I'm starting to ease the controls so that the main is nice and twisty for the barrelway. Jibs a little bit eased here, and the key things that we're thinking about coming into this tack barrelway are a flat boat, the sails being in the correct position coming into it, when the sails are eased for the proper barrelway, and the heel throughout the entire maneuver. So the tack, we're going to break it into 3 parts. We're going to do the first one is the tack, where we do a very flat tack. Our body weights come in pretty early compared to the turn because our sails are so eased. Pretty smooth, slow movement across the boat, nothing too drastic. And then making sure we're not hitting too hard on the new wing. As you can see right here, our main is really far out, jib's pretty eased. And in this moment in the middle, me as the crew, I'm dropping the main for the helm to pick up across, and I'm going to grab the jib on the way out as well. So I have the jib in here, grabbing the puck and waiting to kind of feel the boat gain power so that we can put our weight out. Nevin is going to bail clip in the back so that he has pretty much full mobility and can keep the steering really consistent. So the next part of this is the actual barrelway. And here I'm going to start easing the jib by uncleaning it to the knot, which is about a loose downwind setting. And Nevin's going to keep the main eased. We're going to apply pressure to keep the boat heel to windward, and Nevin's going to keep pressure on the rudder to keep the turn going really consistently. So here, the next tricky part is your body weight's going to want to fly forward. So it's maintaining that backward feeling or leaning on your back foot a lot to keep the bow out of the water. I think I grab my foot strap to hold myself, and then put your feet underneath your body and get into the boat for the set. So there you have it. That is a tack barrelway.
So that is a tack barrelway. And there's 4 of those videos of different maneuvers, and that's the shortest one. I chose that because that's the shortest one. So, you can imagine Dane there is boiling it down into the most important things. There's 20 other little things that they talked about, and some are more relevant than others. And if you're having a group of people that are less experienced, they're going to be saying things about, hey, when I'm trying to turn, how do I pick up the tiller extension, or how do I change behind my back? But that process of everyone talking about it is crucial to the whole thing. If we just tell them what to do and this is the right way to do it, it is not Kaizen. It is something else. It is us lecturing them. And so, the upfront, we're in this together and let's decide what to do, and creating a platform where everyone can speak about it and, bring things up and together reach a conclusion was really pretty powerful. So here's our conclusions from our, foray into the Kaizen world as we learned about it. And the first one was, don't try to do too much. Do fewer things and do them better. And the takeaway from that was they know that they are better at this. They came in every session knowing that they were a little better than they went out. And as a coach, as a facilitator, as a teacher, that's really what you need to keep them going, is knowing that it's working. As I've sort of gone on ad nauseum about this, everyone invested in the process from the beginning. They decide what to work on. They agree on the drills. They refine it together, and most importantly, they reach the conclusions of that little thing. And then I'm dropping the main sheet at head to wind, and Nevin's picking it up. I can't tell you how much went into that over how many days to get that little thing that, now this is the way the 49er skiff squad does tack barrel-wise. And the final thing is create an end product that shows what they learned. Have something that everyone can look to and go, we learned that, we know that, we're better at that, and here it is. So that's my little learning thing of Kaizen and how it applies to sailing.
Cool. Why don't you stop sharing, and we'll have a little more discussion. I had a question for you. I always find it tricky to play that role of I'm managing a team, but I also want to be in the trenches learning together with them. And how did you handle that in this particular situation? Clearly there's a time when, I don't know, when you as the coach, you have to say, we're doing this now or whatever.
Yeah.
And maybe Charlie, you had very good customers there, but maybe think about the optimist coach or the high school coach, that has to play that role.
Yeah, I've thought about that a lot in sort of collecting my thoughts for this presentation. That's really been the main topic of my mind is how does this apply at the other levels of sport, and I've really come to the conclusion that it applies maybe even more so the less the people know, because the less the people know, the more the default becomes just tell them what to do. And then you're telling them what to do and they're trying to do it and you're critiquing what they're doing. But this is not the Kaizen, they don't feel like, they're part of this process. And so I guess my thought about that is ultimately when you were deciding what to do, you want to make them think it's their idea, even if sometimes it has to be our idea. But the psychology of that, and it seems like we're taking a little time to be listening to the questions or thoughts of the least experienced person in the group, or if someone is at a lower level or doesn't know how to sail at all and they're asking that. One of the things that it does is just forces you to get down to the very basics. You have to pick up the tiller and steer the boat, and whatever else is happening, you have to keep steering the boat. Okay, let's watch that again. Oh, well, how does Jimmy do that? How does he get the tiller behind his back without it getting caught in his life jacket? You know, and then you give the floor to Jimmy and Jimmy talks. And then what do we think? What do we think's the best way? You know, in the end, you do sometimes have to mediate and say, okay, so we've all agreed that this is the best way. Or the nice part about the Kaizen is you don't have to reach a definitive conclusion. You can say, okay, well, this afternoon, let's all go try Jimmy's method and see how we feel about that. And
Awesome.
I think that's pretty
Hey,
good.
so we got a question from the audience is not so much on disagreements or problem solving the method, but what if you got 5 sailors that all want to do 5 different things? How do you manage and prioritize working with the group?
That is a, you know, that is where you find out how tight the group is their willingness to give up on some of their short-term goals for the long-term good of the, you know, of the group and of the situation. And I think that's where us as facilitators, we're teaching them about life. This is how life works. You don't always get what you want. You get some of what you want, and we compromise. And in the act of getting there, what we're trying to do is sort of subtly say, you think you want to work on that because you're great at this, but you're not really that great at this. There's still room for improvement in your game at that part too. So we'll do a little bit of that, and then we'll get on to that other thing. Excellent suggestion. And end with making it seem like, okay, so you're all in agreement. Sometimes you just have to say, you're all in agreement, and this is what we're doing. Or what I'm hearing is we're doing this. Even if they're not totally in agreement, you know, in the end, you know, we all work together and do it my way. But that's not what we're trying to convey. We're trying to convey they've decided.
Mm-hmm. All right, we have another question. This one, it's tricky, but I'll just forward it to you. Did you notice any change in the results of the team after you used this method?
Well, I guess stepping back one step and, you know, saying what going into it, what we thought, what they and I thought about what phase of development they're in was process-oriented learning, where we're not focused on results. So in general, when you're trying to learn new things, I think that we pretty universally agree that it's better to not focus on results. It's better to focus on the way that we're getting better. And so, yes, I'm lucky that this group, they're competitive, but they genuinely want to see everyone get better at this. So there wasn't any impediment to the process-oriented learning. They weren't, but I will say, if you have people who are like, I need to every drill crush them, that is not Kaizen, okay? We can do that at times, you know, but it can also get in the way at times, the hyper-competitiveness. So sorry, that was a long-winded, semi-non-answer. The fun, you know, the answer to the, you know, the question that was actually asked is they know they're better. They are ready when it's time for them to go come in on port right in front of the world champs. They know they can come around and throw it in there and get into the low lane and not get pinned. There is absolutely no, you know, we talked at the end, did this work? How did this work? And my download to them was, you don't need me. You don't need us. You guys can do this yourself. And they say, we need you guys because we need the facilitator, but we understand how to learn. And what a great feeling to, to walk away as a coach, having people tell you that they know how to learn.
Yeah. It's been just one of the total good feel good things about this pandemic is that we've kind of been forced into these corners of the world to work on very specific things. And it's just a huge light bulb for our athletes and for us too, that it does work and we can get this work done. And I love what you said there about the sailors, that the most important thing to them every day is to win each drill. And I would bet if there's 100 of us listening right now, 85 of them run into that. 85 of us run into that every day, and it's a big challenge. Leandro, why don't you, Charlie was on the develop this plan and this execution. And I know a number of us came away with it looking at the finished product that the sailors delivered. And we're like, this is awesome and amazing. And now how do we really benefit from those videos? What have you done with them, and how are they helping more than just these 3 teams?
Basically, we are creating a library. We're collecting the videos of the best maneuver from our top players, and then we are sharing them with the upcoming talent as a reference after sailing, and one thing that we are very excited that is happening this week in Miami is we have the top players in the same place, in the same venue with the upcoming talent, and everybody's approachable. So once the young teams see these videos, and they look around their boat park and they see the sailors that they actually made the maneuver, they can go and ask a question. And that is very powerful, the power of community, and it's very, very cool how it's working.
Mm-hmm. And then we had another question that said, have we encountered a moment when the process isn't working for the team, and would we scrap it? Charlie, when was that camp? What month was that?
That camp was August.
August. Okay.
Yeah. So it was in the, what seemed like the heart of the pandemic, and they had to get out of California, and they were being a really safe, self-contained group that just wanted to be away from everyone and not travel and put their heads down and work, and they trusted each other. And I think it added to the sort of belief and trust and teammate thing. So they packed up and drove to the gorge and camped out and sailed. And I came because I could drive there and get to them, and and we could go do this. And so in that backdrop, any little things that didn't work seemed so minor in the overall scheme of things. And yes, when you're saying, let's try this or let's try that, let's push the limits, let's see if you can keep the main and do the bear away when it's not 17 knots, but now it's 21 knots. And, they're going to crash and they're going to go flying around the head stay, and they're trying Harry and Finn's method of bearing away, and they're crashing and swimming. And yeah, there's some times where it didn't work. Definitely, I got the videos to prove it. But they don't, they can all laugh at themselves and each other too, which okay, we know we're succeeding when that's what the group's doing.
All right, we have about 2 minutes left. Let me just follow up a little on that. You've been down here coaching for a couple days with many of the same guys, but also with younger sailors that are just learning the boat. Would you say that you're employing this method, this specific nature every time you're on the water as a coach, or are there better times to employ it than others, or help us think about that?
Yeah. I think the answer to that is pretty nuanced. In not everything we're doing on the water involves this tight circles, but conceptually that we're learning together, we're deciding together, we're sharing, and we're making incremental improvements. We absolutely have done that this week. So in this specific example, we said, hey, we want to learn, to be able to tack set. And this is why it's important to learn this skill. It's a very difficult skill at the level that we're at here. So obviously we can't do it when it's windy, but we can, let's go try to do it in 10, 12 knots. And we did the same thing. What should we do? Let's try to do it. And we made a very conscious effort to not tell them, you pick up the main, you do this, you let out the jib. We did the drill with them, and then we came in, and then we talked about what they learned, what maybe worked, didn't work. We watched them, the videos, they came back, let's try it this way. Then we showed them this video that you guys saw and said, well, here's the conclusion that the top people came to. And here's Dane talking about when he drops the main sheet. And, you can go ask him why he thinks that's better or not, but let's go try the next day with that knowledge. But we didn't just come in going, you don't know anything, they're the experts, here's how to do it, and we're going to teach you. We let them be the process. And then we gave them these tools to help guide them.
Great. Well, I think we have to wrap it up. Awesome presentation. Appreciate your expertise to the group. And I know that we will share Charlie's PowerPoint, and maybe Leandro can work with Stu to post some of those videos on the links for the symposium. Stu, back to you.
Good deal. Thank you, Charlie. Thank you, Luther and Leandro. Great to see you. We're going to take a quick, probably about a 10 to 12 minute break. So we kick off right at 1 o'clock for the afternoon session. As it's been for the last couple of days, our feed's going to remain live, so you don't have to change anything. But we are going to take a break and we'll get set up on our end. And we'll kick off with Leandro and Sally Barco when we get back at 1 o'clock. So thanks, everybody, for the morning session, and we'll see you soon. Thank you, Charlie.
That was awesome, Charlie. And thank you, Leandro.
Yeah.
So we're still live here, right?
I was in panic mode. My computer was so slow. I'm like, I'm not using this computer now. It's been working great forever, and the moment you really want it, I cannot connect.
We heard you well enough. All right. Thanks for talking me through it, Stu.
My pleasure. Thanks for doing it.
Yeah.
Awesome, Charlie.
I was hopefully there's no one who was on the call who actually knows a lot about the Kaizen method.
Hey, you did a really good job of describing it, and I don't know much about it, so you're my resource.
Remember, Charlie, it's a translation from Japanese, so everything goes.
Might have got some of the details wrong.
We're used to translations that aren't really true because we work with Leandro.
Exactly. It's true. Who's gonna manage the PowerPoint and the slides?
I believe Sally was going to. She was on earlier and we did a tech check and she was good. I'm just waiting for her to hop on and then we'll bump her up to presenter.
I think I'm gonna turn my phone off because I don't know if you heard it, but it's non-stopping.
The dinging.
Like,
yeah.
We understand your life. I'm going to grab some food. I'll be back. I'll be you can take me out and I can just listen,
Sounds good. Thanks,
Okay.
Charlie.
Yep.
Is Sally joining?
I just texted her.
Do you have the PowerPoints too
I do.
as a plan B? Okay. You never know with technology. We're going to talk about it.
I do. Hi, Sally.
Hello. I made it.
Hey, Sally.
Hi, Leandro. Don't stress. I'm here.
Beautiful.
I'm good. I'm just stressed about my phone not stopping beeping. All good?
All good.
Sally, if you want to share your screen to pull it up, you're welcome to.
Okay. 1 second. I'll be right back.
Are you happy with how things are going, Stu?
I am. It's been great to see so many people kind of checking in, and as nice as Miami is, it was nice not to get on a plane. So
That's fantastic.
I think Luther's going to talk more about this later on, but being able to deliver coaching education and education in general, virtually and digitally, there's a lot to be said for that. And so looking at how we can do more of that as we go forward in ways that allows more interactivity.
Yeah.
Even what we're doing now.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, time to turn it off. You hear that beep on my phone or it's only me?
Nope, I can hear it.
Okay, I'm gonna turn it off. Again. It's like first. Funny enough, I never turn it off. I don't even know how to.
How's that? Can you see that?
Mhm.
You want me just to keep sharing the whole time, or you want to face? Okay.
You'll still be on the screen. Yep.
I like it when we start out not sharing and then you just share when the appropriate time is.
Copy that.
But we know it works. That's all that matters.
Do you got good intros for these two?
I don't know, Luther, unless you want to take it. You spend more time with these guys than I do.
I'm happy for you to do it. Hot tip in the Grove, Panther Coffee. You order it online and go pick it up at a window
Where is it?
right across the street from Starbucks.
Nice.
That's the best coffee I've had on this trip. Probably a mistake. I went there. Now I'll probably go every morning. Are empanadas being served at the North Americans, Leandra?
Absolutely. Orcas and empanadas at the same time.
Let me know what time that is.
Yeah, Mark Asquith was upset yesterday. Right back.
Gotta get the Cuban coffee, Luther. Keeps you going all day.
Options are limited here in the COVID world.
Mark yesterday was like, so are there empanadas today? I'm like, I'm so sorry. He's like, what? Don't lower the bar. Oh, Luther froze.
I think he turned his camera off.
Still here. Just got about another 4 minutes, then we'll jump in.
We're gonna have a Vicky appearance.
No. She's locked outside. Will be a real life situation with her interrupting and can you help me with my math?
We can see coaching in the moment.
Yeah. The good, the bad, and the ugly. She was a student of the month.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Did she go to the same school that Andy has gone to?
Yes. She's very proud of that.
Mm-hmm. But they're at separate schools now?
No, they are in the same school.
Okay.
Yeah. They have two buildings, so then separate buildings, but it's, right next to each other.
What's the age difference?
6 and 9, 3.
Okay, so pretty close.
Yeah.
And he's proud brother to help her through the hoops, or
Yes, he is. Yeah. It's in his personality,
That's cool.
And she's independent, so that is a perfect formula for conflict. He wants to help, she doesn't want to be helped. So
They're probably gonna be like Sebastian and Leah.
now with the new dog, they have something in common. It's funny how the dynamics change.
Mm.
You're together on this one. So.
All right, folks, shall we get going?
Absolutely.
Good. Everybody ready? Cool. Well, great morning session leads really well into this one. Very excited to have Leandro Spina and Sally Barco join us. I've had the good fortune of connecting with them on a number of different coaching, education, and U.S. sailing events, but their focuses on a regular basis are Leandro with the ODP and Sally as the Olympic team coach and performance manager. Leandro, I think I first crossed paths with you a number of years ago. You were coaching in Miami, and then you joined U.S. Sailing as one of our national team coaches in 2008. One of the really cool things that I saw I'd come across is that in 2018, the U.S. Olympic and Paralympic Committee announced you as the developmental coach of the year, and that's across all sports. And I think it sort of speaks to the caliber of the coach you are and the type of program you're leading. So really, really cool, and psyched to have you here. Sally joins us. She's their Olympic team coach and performance manager, brings what most people know her as a really strong athlete background, two-time Rolex Yachtswoman of the Year in 05 and 07, an Olympian in 2008, and a two-time Volvo Ocean race competitor. She's also been a U.S. Sailing Board member, so sort of a jack of all trades and a really strong advocate through some of her work with the Magenta Project as well, and for providing diversity in our sport, which has been super cool. And they've both joined us on prior Starboard portals and been involved in a number of different ways. So we're psyched to have both of you here. Thank you for taking time out of your busy schedules. Luther, any other wise words before we jump into this?
Just, something you hear me state all the time. This is a subject where I need expert help or need experts to do it all. And I'm here to listen mostly. So I don't know which one of you is going to go first, but take it away. Thanks for helping us.
Okay, let me share my screen and then Leandro, you're up first.
Good. Thank you, Stu. Very excited about your efforts to share knowledge with all the coaches. So we're going to talk today briefly about what we are doing in our daily jobs with technology. And I think I'm in a unique position in between the youth level and transitioning sailors into Olympic program where Sally and Luther are receiving them. And one thing that we do together is we use technology to develop the talent. And I want to touch briefly on our philosophy about technology and as coaches. I always ask a question, and I always have this conversation with coaches and athletes and stakeholders. What kind of business we're in? And I always use the phrase that we're in the business of developing people. And when it comes to technology, I want to always draw the line very clearly, at least in the ODP philosophy, is that we're not on the business of developing technology. We're developing people. And technology help us, is a tool to work with the athletes and gain confidence. Having data available in today's world, technology is part of everything we do, and it's very clear it's going to be part of our lives as we move forward and more and more. But there's one thing that I always remind myself, and we talk with the coaches, is when we're using the technology as a tool, we always need to keep a very good balance in between using technology and developing athletes' skills and rely on their feelings, on their feedback, and keep a very good balance in between those two. I think that is the key to success, because if not, technology, one of the red flags with technology is that it can be a red flag. It can be too much distractions. It can be overwhelming. So it's very important for us to remind ourselves of that balance. And because that philosophy of not being in the business of developing technology in a fast-moving world, when it comes to technology, I like to also think of using technology that is available, what we call off the shelf. If we're not building it, what is out there that we can use to support our athletes? And that's what I believe is what we're going to go through now, and hope you enjoy it. And if you have any questions, we're here, very happy to share. And one last point that is here on the screen is at a very personal level, I constantly look for opportunities to learn new skills. And when it comes to technology, I really like to develop a relationship with the technology developers. They are the experts. We are the customers. We need to transfer that into the athletes as a tool, as a value. So that relationship is usually a win-win situation, because developers, in most cases, they really like to get feedback, and they're always waiting for that question or that challenge on what do we need and how they can help us. So it's that mentality of keep learning and using technology for that. So okay, what you see here is something that is now part of our ODP program on daily basis. Weather obviously is our environment. We need to become better and better, and there's never stopping, learning about weather. So there's multiple tools that you can use for it. There's multiple products out there. In the bottom left, you see an AirMar sensor, and most coaches around the world, especially at the Olympic level, they use it. Is not cheap. Is in the over $1,000 range, but very accurate and very, very good to get quality data on weather. In the other hand, in the top right hand of the screen, there is a BNG wind vane. For what we do is equally advanced and provides really good data, and it's about half the price. And it requires a little more maintenance or careful, because there's a lot of moving parts and you can break them in your backpack. And you just need to be careful, but it's half the price. What I'm going to talk briefly here is a weather station that we have at the Olympic program, weather stations that are expensive because we have a lot of carbon fiber parts and we travel around the world. But this is one that, as a coach, I put together myself for, let's consider it a budget, for a lot less than the advanced ones. But the pieces are the same, basically. In the middle is a GPS unit in the range of $250. And in the top left is actually a Pelican case, waterproof, with a BNG display. There's even simpler displays than that, and all the cables and parts to put it together, you can buy them on Amazon. They're really cheap. So basically what we do here is I can travel with all the pieces inside the Pelican case. I don't need to ship it sometimes. I can get on the airplane with it. And I can use a laser mask if you're coaching lasers, or an old carbon fiber windsurf mask, or anything to put in the air. Sometimes I have a T-top, so it's very easy to use. But the importance of having weather is to minimize second guessing. One of the things that I always talk to sailors and coaches is, where is that transition in between 2 extra knots when we're looking for power when we start depowering the boat? And it's very important, I believe, to know the answers without second guessing. And having those numbers, eliminates all that, and we can learn faster and move quickly. One last piece in the bottom right, which is a little more advanced, and not everybody really needs it, but there is a weather data logger that's been developed for us. And when you connect it to the rest of the system, what it does is I can share the data from my coach boat remotely with anybody that has access to a link on their phones. And I can share with other coaches in the course area. And more importantly, I can share with our weather person in our team remotely. So when she prepares the next week or the next day forecast, she knows exactly what happened today. And she also gained confidence in between her models and what was happening in real time. The website is there. Chelsea is amazing addition in our Olympic program. And she's amazing at also working with the very top sailors and coaches in the world, and same as people that are learning about weather. She can adapt to any needs. So at any level you're working, any level of your sailors are, if you need to improve on understanding the weather, click that link and you will be happy. So.
Okay. So on my side, first, I want to say that the next couple slides are image and content intensive. So I know when I was watching this on the YouTube that the screen wasn't quite big enough. So just feel free to zoom in so you can capture all the detail. We're trying to give you a really good insight into everything we're using and the knowledge we have on technology. By far, it's not the best or it's not the most, it's not everything out there in the world. Obviously, we live in a massive world of technology. So touching on communication, for me, I coached the NACRA 17s mixed Olympic class, and it's, you know, it was a big eye opener to how much I wasn't able to really get to know the sailors on the boat. And I just wanted to introduce this BB Talking. You probably have come across it somewhere in your career, but it was really a game changer for us. The ability to listen, it's not necessarily always used for a communication back to the sailors. Sometimes it is to direct traffic, but for me, it was a huge tool to listen to their communication on the boat, how they were interacting with each other, what important words they were using, and a way to really teach communication right in the moment. So we didn't have to go back to shore and say, well, what did you say in this situation? What did you say in that situation? It was right in the moment. I could tell them, okay, stop, take a 5-minute break, and then talk to them face to face about how they might use different words. We had big success in, you know, changing amazingly very, very simple words mean a lot out there. And when you're coaching, well, I think any level of athlete, but especially the more high performance you get, the more words matter. And it's a really important part of the game for people to perceive differently. So, you know, the other point of this is that I found it really, really valuable in when we're training. It's like they have a third party involved. They know I'm listening, but they also know that I don't interrupt. But it seemed to be a really successful way to eliminate some of the frustrations in a double-handed boat. And I really enjoyed, you know, Mitch's chat yesterday, because I resonate with a lot of what he was saying. And, you know, it's my day-to-day generally. So, excuse me, on the bottom here, 2 examples of what we also use on the water for voice recording. On the right, this voice recorder, super cheap, sticking in a dry bag. I used it to make sure, especially if a new team was getting in the boat together, stick it in their life jacket. It's very insightful to listen how they start their communication and their communication for the day. It taught me a lot about team dynamics, which generally would take a week or 2 of like understanding the athlete, understanding how they're treating each other. So that was pretty powerful. But actually, quite frankly, we moved over to this form. This is a GoPro Hero 4. I think they're up to like 9 now. But a pretty basic GoPro camera that actually records the sound. So I have the crew, Anna has it on her head, especially if we're trying to figure out maneuvers or something specific that she's doing. It carries the voice of the skipper and the crew. It's recorded. So it's useful for us in 2 different ways. When she's reviewing her own footage about like, oh, where did I step or how could I have done this better? It's right there for her, but it's also the communication between both of them she can listen to. And then I use it, which you'll see later on in the overlay with some of the analytics and the players we use to put everything together. So they see the video, they see the onboard, and they can hear the communication between the boats. So it's a really nice way to, quite frankly, eliminate the third device here of a voice recorder and having to worry about waterproofing, is it picking up the sound, all of that, and just switching to a camera. Okay, so like I said, content intensive here, but we've gone through the exercise, at least the beginning part of the exercise, with the help of Riley Shutt, who's our, in-house technical engineer, of trying to figure out what is the best GPS device to use on a boat, because we get a lot of questions, quite frankly, from a very different, range of sailors of what's the most valuable, what's the most cost efficient, what works for what we need. And so this is a review of a couple of the ones that we did tackle. Sailmon, which you'll hear Leandro a little bit later chatting about. It is made in Europe, 1 hertz per second. So that means it's updating its information pretty much every second. Pretty easy and developed by a bunch of former 470 guys. So pretty dinghy specific, definitely used on other boats, but we found a good value in that Salmon. The Vaqueros Atlas, pretty similar product. I know it's used on, I think, a lot of the Melgus 20s or J70s and stuff like that. We found when we put it on the NACRA, quite frankly, the power terminal, the way that it's just created, keeps failing on us, doesn't like the salt water, not really conducive to what we're doing. But actually the most disappointing part is that it doesn't record the data. So all these other devices you see here actually record the GPS log, which you'll see later how we easily transform that into an analytical setting, a visual of how fast the boat's going at what angle, for instance. And so that's pretty disappointing about the Vaqueros. It happens to be one of the more expensive ones as well. Up here on the top right, you heard Willie McBride talk about his experience with the Garmin Verb camera. Go back and have a look at his presentation. It was really good because it shows you the overlay of camera data off the camera because there's a GPS inside of it, and how it's kind of just a very simple, inclusive one-stop shop. Down here on the bottom, a Garmin watch. A lot of our athletes have that. And this is our one area where we did put a little bit of a custom effort into. Riley developed an app because we were really, okay, what's the simplest way we can measure, the pitch and the heel of the boat for performance purposes? So we developed this app. It works. It's actually not our first go-to. It didn't take a lot of time for him, but quite frankly, it's hard to mount the watch perfectly in a stable position on the boat. And it's a funny thing to have a problem with, but if you think of these other screens, they're attached with Velcro on a stable surface. They're flat. You don't have to work with the round surfaces. So, and then in the middle, True Sail System, if you've heard of it, you kind of have an idea of what it is. The middle picture here is the different places it's on the boat. So forward is this display screen, and that is interchangeable with everything else that's measured on the boat. There's a clue load or a main sheet load, also correlating with a boom sensor. And then on the back, this is on Acra 17, but it's measuring the rudder angle. So like how often the athlete is steering over a rate of time. And then it's also measuring the pitch and the heel. So it's one of the most complete, devices you can use for measuring dinghy performance. I think you see a lot of this on the big boat stuff. They have all the measurements coming in, but obviously on the dinghy, it's a lot harder to extract those data points off the boat. You can see here, it's expensive. There's no way around it. It's very high performance. So just wanted you to know that it was out there. So the devices there in red that we haven't really vetted out perfectly, and for various different reasons. Velocitech, the company's been around for a very long time. They've produced the two newest, Pro Start and the Speed Puck. The Pro Start claims to be, it's actually updating 4 times per second. So that is quite good. I've used the old Pro Start to enter into the data for the logging, but we haven't actually been able to get our hands on the new one, which I have heard good reviews about, but it's still on our TBD of devices. Same thing with the Speed Puck, 2 times per second, still a really good update, of data logging rate. Let's say you're trying to, see the rate of turn or speed through a tack. That's going to be enough for you. I did look 2 days ago. That's the price, but you can't actually order it online. Anyway, maybe there's more success with that other places. Just a little insight, a Kiwi company called Yachtbot. They have Windbot, Tidebot, TalkBot, kind of a full comprehensive everything you might need. If you want to just go with one company, heads up there, you have to inquire about the product to actually get a price. So I'm assuming it's expensive, but being developed by, some great group of people in New Zealand. The GoPro Hero 8, like I said, I think they're on the 9, but it's just another example of a little higher on camera, but comprehensive, good GPS integration with the camera, one-stop shop for, pretty reasonable price, especially if you're working on your own or, you have, you want to have a couple different boats and have the same platform for pretty cheap. This watch up here, it's on our radar because it's, it's the favorite of the surfing community. this V-Box Sport, the favorite of the auto racing industry. I put those up there because it's just an insight. Pretty much every sport that we come across, and working with the USOPC, the insight is that every sport, in my opinion, has a GPS device. We happen to have more than one. We have a few varieties, but they have a GPS device and an analytical software that is really specific for their sport. So volleyball has one, track and field has one, you know, bowling has one. It's everybody's using this technology. And I just want you to be aware that there's a ton of, you know, if you start looking for devices, there's a ton out there. And it takes some research to figure out what works perfectly for you. Okay, Leandro, on to you.
Thanks, Sally. So I'll talk briefly here about the drones. Drones, as you all know, are becoming also very popular. We are using it many times, but not on a daily basis. The view that the new perspective that you can use from a drone is just an eye opener. You know, is very much liked by our coaches as well as our sailors. It takes time to learn the technique on where to position the drone, what angles, how to follow boats, especially if they're fast. What kind of angle do you want? So it takes time. So it can be time consuming. So one recommendation is don't rush into going into the drone land. Maybe it's easier just to schedule, you know, at the right time with the right plan, a good drone pilot, and that is a very good value and investment. The combination of getting these angles and these videos with the trackers that analytics software that we're going to show now is a very powerful. You know, when you are in doing what we are doing, there's constantly trying to get better. Having different perspectives, even play the spy game, and you know, being able to record the very best players on the water is amazing. Be very careful if you go there that it requires a lot of time and maintenance. You know, there's very little margin for error with the drone. You know, if you don't maintain it's not perfect, it will crash. Hopefully not in a sailboat, but definitely it's gonna go swimming. And they are getting cheaper as everything involved with technology is amazing. When I think about all the tools that we're talking today and we're gonna talk now, couple years ago, they were way more expensive. So you need to pace yourself with technology because, you know, it's getting better and cheaper. So it's all about managing the timing when you get into what technology. Next slide, Sally, please. Okay, I'm talking now about using technologies on the shelf, but this is one specific that is not available publicly. It's the one time that ODP decided to go and develop technology with our partners, Quantum Racing. When we were coaching all our young talent, we needed advanced tools to really show visually and scientifically what happened, especially with controls in our boats. So we developed this tool on the left-hand side. Obviously, I'm not going to play a video because technology is not good yet to play videos on Zoom. But basically, it's a very visual way to see what happened when you apply a control to sail shape, mast bend, etc. And in the right-hand side, it shows the science behind it and the numbers for those that they love math and physics. We do have this at ODP for every youth world class. We're developing for some Olympic classes now. So it is available in the sense that we want to share it with class associations. We want to share it with regional programs, and we want to run more clinics around the country. That's our business. So it's going to come to you sooner or later. Yeah, next one. Here's another technology available today on the same concept of developing talent and trying not to second guess. When we talk to our young talent and we talk about sales shape, this is a daily conversations, right, in between coaches and athletes about twist, Cunningham, draft position, how to get faster. And this Sale Cloud sale measurement tool is being developed by one of our experts, Grant Spanhake. And as you can see here, it's being used in an ODP camp with the 29ers, as well as both him and I, we use it for the Maxi 72s in the right-hand side. So it covers from the very early levels to all the top. You don't need this tool every single day, but save that link and use it, especially if you are creating a tuning guide for the class your coach. If you have the right picture in the right angle for every single condition, you can go and measure the sales and have proper data and talk the proper language on twist, draft positions, etc. Very good tool. It's affordable, and they have great tutorials on the videos. At the beginning, it's a little bit overwhelming because it's very advanced, but they have amazing support on the website. Good. Here we're getting into tracking software and analytics software. I'm going to show 3 different ones that we are testing and using, and why we like it, and why we use it in, especially in ODP. This specific one, Charted Sales, is an American company. I love that fact about it. Thomas works very closely with us. He loves to be on the phone after each camp and improve the software. He's very approachable, and I think this software is a great fit for any level that you're coaching, for a club to all the way to the top. It's very easy to use. It takes literally seconds to upload that data from either your watch, you can use even a phone as a tracker, you can use the camera. As long as you have a tracking file, it takes 15 seconds to upload, and it's super easy. And also they develop their own trackers that we're using this week in Miami, where the tracker sends the data automatically to the cloud and it's already on the system. So let's say if there is a regatta in your club or you're using it for training, you don't need to do much. It's automated. Yesterday, true story, I was working from the office and our laser group was training in Miami, and from my office, I was measuring their tuning, the tune-ups, and they did little races, and I was creating races in the software remotely. So when they came back to shore, they have everything ready to watch the trackers. A few things about it. I really encourage you to go and try it. Actually, you can try it for free for, I guess, it's a month. It works really fast on Google. All the software analytics, I learned that Google Chrome is a much powerful tool to watch videos or to use tracker analytics software. So it's a little tip there. The other thing that's really good about it is you can share by email. So you can share with people that's not there. You can share with the sailors at the end of the session. And in that sense, is superior to the other tools I'm going to show you now next. The potential of growth with this company is huge. Is because that relationship, they really like to work with coaches and athletes, and every week they're improving this software. I think we have 2 more slides on this software, Sally. So here's one that is very new as of last week. Is the maneuvers and analysis feature. It does it also automatically. You can, if you have a big group, You can go on specific maneuvers. You can see here a little bit on the left-hand side. You can see who did the best maneuver, how much time it took them to do it, the tacking angles, the jibing angles. The little graph in the bottom is very good visually to see how long, how you lose BMG through the maneuver. And again, every week, Thomas is improving the software. And you can create races now, and you can score people based on speed over ground, who sailed the best BMG, or who just won the race, or who won the a lineup or one leg individually. So very, very excited about this American company. And I think there's one more slide, Sally, that if you're working with sailors, especially young sailors or beginner sailors, they also have, this is a screenshot, comes from one click on the software in the maneuvers analysis that explains how the analysis is done. So it has also that education component to it. And he's going to add even more. Very cool to understand, the analytics part of it, because one thing about all these tools that we're going to share now on analytics is they're basically based, all this math is based from trackers, tracking data, but we don't really have in our case, in the big boats we do, is you don't have the wind, the apparent wind and the true wind angles and speed that the boat is actually sailing from it at. So it's very good that they explain how the math is done, so you understand whether you're looking at it and how to use it. Here's another one on maneuvers analytics, and KND, the link is there, is, I would say, arguably or known as the most powerful sailing data analytics company in the world. This company works from America's Cup level, ocean race teams, Grand Prix professional teams, and now they're getting part of their software tailored to dinghy sailing. And it's extremely powerful company and software. Is simple to use, very simple. And they are, as of a couple of weeks ago, is now off the shelf, but be aware they're still on the beta phase, and they're developing features for coaches that they don't have a lot of data coming from the boats. That's the thing that's important to note here. This is a software that is always angry for more and more data, so the more you give it, the better data you get from it. So you don't work, this one cannot work online, you cannot share it, you just need to print it and share it with your sailors. I guess it's basically because it's coming from the highest levels, it's a security thing for spy games and all that stuff. But it has pros and cons on that. I like to be able to print or share an attachment to a sailor. They can study at night, and the next morning we can talk. It's very visual too. And for now, only works on a PC. It doesn't work on Mac yet. But Andrea, the developer, is working on that, and very soon is going to be working on Macs. This is another snapshot of how the software comes. Does all the analytics. Is very, I cannot pronounce this word, Sally, intuitive. Very smart software. You can do it for one boat analysis or multi-boat analysis, up to 10 boats. And I really I'm a very visual person. I'm color coded. I like to see those colors. When I see those trackers on the left-hand side, and I see why that boat at that time was not sailing their best performance, when it's a hard color, that was the time on the race that they have the peak performance. If all of them are in the same area, I start putting things together. You know, that's how I use it. Okay, maybe it was a wind scenario or sea state. And then when you go leg by leg and boat by boat, now they're developing this feature that you can see if they're, you know, in phase with the wind, you know, how they're sailing the boat, BMG, etc. Very powerful. I think they're gonna improve this, improve the deliverables as they get more feedback from us. And you can see also, it's not very good to see here, but every boat there is ranked, and you can see the yellow dot on who sailed the best, speed over ground of that race or leg, who sailed the best BMG, and etc. And one thing that is very also I really like about this one, on the right hand side, in the last column in that graph, no graph in that, yes, right there, thank you, Sally. It also shows the percentages of how much time that particular boat sail left or right of the axis. It's a very common thing in coaching that when we talk to our sailors, they say, oh yeah, I was on the left side. I'm like, you were on the left side of the fleet, but you were still very close to the middle of the course. So this is why I like to use software like this, is so we don't second guess. That's the main thing. I try not to get too deep into the numbers and what they mean, but I want to, when we have conversations like that, specific situations, I want to learn quickly and say, okay, no, here it is. This is a fact. We learn from it, and now we go to the next topic. The third company that we are using, and I'll tell you why I like this one a little different than the other ones, is this SailNord software is being recently developed after the America's Cup in Bermuda. I call it a little nerdy because it's also like K&D is very advanced already. And, you know, if you're into all of that, you're going to love it, you know. But it has basically two features or two kind of softwares that you can use with this company. One is very affordable and I love it, which is the Njord player. And the other one, and Sally, you're going to talk, right, a little bit about the analytics portion of it. But for what I do in ODP, the player, as I talked before about when I do have a drone or if I'm filming with my phone from the coach, but I have an onboard camera, and having the visual, like in this screen, and on the right-hand side, having the data from the boat is extremely powerful for coaching. And this is a affordable tool. It takes not too long to use it, to learn to use it properly. And you can have two screens with videos. You can have from the drone here, from on board or from outside, from my coach boat. We can see different angles. In this case, in this screenshot, there's only one boat. But if you see on the picture on the right-hand side in green is Nick performance, and the yellow is Ernesto. At this moment, it's not there, but that's a video actually. So you can see two boats sailing right next to each other. You can start putting together technique and factual numbers coming from those boats. I personally like very, very much to have a speed over ground, course over ground, true wind angle, and BMG. Because when I start paying attention to technique and difference in performance, you learn quickly to see if a sailor at that moment in which mode they're sailing. You know, if they're bow down fast and you can see a technique, but sometimes when you see the true wind angle and the course over ground combination with BMG, you know, all of a sudden say, okay, this is a moment that the best performance came from staying close to the breeze, shoulders out, fine trimming, and being very precise with the driving. So when you put together all of that as a coach and you share it with the sailors and you have a conversation, is probably the most powerful tool that we're using today.
Leandro, let me ask you one question.
Yes.
When I look at a display like this, and see all the data that's being reported from this software, how much hardware is being utilized to show you that?
In this case, I remember that was the last camp. If you look right next to the centerboard trunk in that boat, it's a speed bug that Sally talked before. It's a $300 tracker. It takes about 30 seconds to put that from that boat, the data in my computer, and then another 3 minutes to put on the software.
Mm-hmm.
And I can put multiple ones and then choose which boat to track in the software here. In this case, you see data from 2 boats, but that day we have 7 lasers sailing. You can use that speed bug. You can use data from the sailors. One of the lessons I want to share about sailors transferring data from their watch, which is a very powerful gadget to have, is they need to actually deliver the data to you. So if they don't do it, you're waiting. But I'd rather not to wait for them. But in some cases we do. Some sailors are very good at it. Some sailors are a little lazier in that sense. So, and I want to say one more time that this technology was very expensive months ago. Now it's getting cheaper and it's getting better. So, pace yourself, strategize about how to use it and when to use it. Reach out to us, so because I think, Luther, you said in the previous call, I think it was on Monday, you're going to call us out if we tell you this is absolutely a must-have today, because probably in a few months' time, there's something new is going to come up. I would love to see what happened in 2028 when we look back at this record call and we're like, oh my God, look what we were doing, But again, very powerful tool.
Awesome.
Okay. So I'll just pick up a little bit with what Leandro was chatting about. This is more specifically about the way that I use a lot of the tools Leandro was talking about. So this is an example of obviously screenshots when we're actually debriefing. It's live video with the sound overlaid on. If you look at this top left-hand screen, this is the onboard camera. And this is where the sound from that GoPro Hero 4 is coming from. And then, the footage that's from the coach boat or off the boat is just coming from my iPhone. So keep it in my iPhone 11, keep it in my trousers or in my life jacket pocket. And that way it's quick, it's on hand. It's, also because I'm listening to the athletes with the BB talk, it's kind of cheating because I know when they're about to go to a maneuver. So if we're really trying to work on jibes, I can hear the countdown and I don't have to waste hours of video. I can, turn my video on 4 seconds before, capture it, and then we can overlay it with the video. So that's the tricky part about all this is just getting the timestamp correct. And what that means is like making sure your phone and the devices you're using are actually, when you go to date and time, that they're actually calling out the same date and time. And then from there, the software has a pretty good system. You can see on the bottom in the example of how all the data I'm putting in lines up, right? So here's an example of like all 3 inputs of it coming in. The big benefit for me is that, these boats are going really fast. So when we're talking about details of how the athletes are crossing the boat or how to improve performance, it's nearly impossible for me to see the crew's hand, this specifically, when she's crossing the boat. So I found it as great for maneuver training, especially in high speed boats. And then you have all the data. So eventually we collect all this data and you have a resource of, 100 jibes. This is how fast you were going at the beginning of the jibe. As we would carry on, we can put it into the analytics, which I'll show you in a second. You can log, okay, out of the 100 jibes, this is how fast we were going in through the middle and towards the end. So a good resource long-term as well, but I agree with Leandro, who knows where we're going to be in 2028. So here's an example of, obviously we're going into the jibe, talking a lot about, where the crew is placing their hands. In these 2 snapshots, what we were trying to answer was, Driving from port to starboard, the sheet is always getting caught. So it's always a horrible drive. There's a knot in it, or it's too tight, or it's too loose. The consistency wasn't there. What we found, is that right here, Anna's hand, she actually, as she's crossing the boat, she just flips her hand over and it creates this little loop in the rope, and that carries on to this block and, creates a little kink in it. And it was consistently happening. And she was only doing it with her right hand, not her left. All of a sudden we figured out a huge thing for her, that no way, like a partially foiling jibe, no way can I see her hands on the coach boat to help her with these like minute details. We got to the bottom of it. We slowed the jibe down. We said, keep your hand square, take the process to actually do it. Boom. All of a sudden the kite, was going smoothly through the jibe. Game changer when we're trying to foil jibe. This example here at the bottom was, another a big moment for us of like, after Anna reviewing all of her own video, we were obviously reviewing it as well in the mornings. And we just realized like, man, Anna, when you're going through the jibe, how much percentage of the time are you looking at the sails? And it was really low. And this was one of the early ones, is that she's really figuring out, the boat's partially foiling. It's like doing these big, giddy up movements. So she's really focusing on where her body is, but she's not looking at the sails. So that led to a lot of inconsistency in trimming out of the jibe. This was just like an awareness thing. Hey, can you look up more in the jibes? And now her videos are all about, you can pretty much see the leech of the kite in every single jibe that she does with the video. So it's proof for the sailors. It's a lot of what Charlie was talking about. Get them to review the video and figure out their process. Help them with a few insights of like, hey, what if we slow the jibe down and you just stare at the sail? What's going to happen with your hands? Well, guess what she figured out? Everything was so mechanical. She could do the jibe and look at the sail. All of a sudden we have a complete package and our jibes are, that much better. But it's an example of using this technology. I'm a huge believer in, if you have a problem, if you have something you want to solve, this is an add-on. This is like a way, especially for our athletes this day and age who thrive on technology. They're on their phone, how much are we telling them to get off their phone? They understand this stuff. So putting it in front of them, we will always do our debriefs like this because, I sit down with Riley and Anna together. And Riley's brain is all about, he's looking at how he's steering through every single jibe, even though we're focusing on a movement for Anna. So big value all around. Here's another way, is that this technology, so it's the true sail, that expensive package that we have, but that's where we are with the Olympic sailing and this performance side of things. These are the gains we need to make. I get all of this data on the rib on a tablet right in front of me. So just again, when we have these big questions of over here on the right, all right, what is the biggest sea state and the lowest wind speed that foiling upwind is a VMG gain, right? That's like as far as upwind tactics on the NACR right now, that is the question. That's what we need to figure out and log. So you can see, move my video thing over, but you can see here that, all right, in this moment in time, probably you can see they're just getting up on the foils going upwind because the bow is pitching up high. They're cogging 19 degrees different, but they're going 3.5 knots faster. Okay, probably not a VMG gain, but what happens in the next moment? These are all numbers that I can feed to them in the moment and say, great, that was a 4-minute session. You went from, when you got on the foils, it was a VMG loss, and then it turned into a gain because often they'll start to go higher and faster, but I can record the time on that. So it's real live, like concrete numbers and answers to these questions that when you're out there on these boats, we've been there, right? The perception is like, whoa, that was really great, or that was really tough tuning run for us, right? Nothing like really solid, but because I have all the numbers there in front of me, I can say, well, yeah, your rudder angle here when you guys were going downwind, was pretty similar, but holy moly, obviously your heel is double of the boat that's actually going, 2 knots faster. Again, a snapshot in time, but this is, how do we keep the boat on the foils going max speed downwind in big waves? So 2 big questions that we have in the NACR fleet that I can give, real live information from the coach boat to the athlete after a session. So this is the next, what I think of as the next level of the Nord player. It's the analytics version. A little bit of background with this company. They do this really, really well in big boats because they have, you know, if you've ever sailed anything more than a 20-foot boat, especially in the 60-foot range, they have a ton of data coming in off those boats. They have all the wind gear on the mast. They have all the sensors. They have all the load cells. You can tell how much tension's on the forestay and the backstay and the bobstay and everything. But this analytics is meant for that. So it's meant for like max amount of data to come in to give you an answer. And what happened in the last few months was that the guys behind the software were like, whoa, light bulb, all of the Olympic sailors are going to be training in a 1-boat format, a 2-boat format, probably less than 5-boat format for the next forever-seeable time. How do we develop this software to make it useful for dinghy classes? So this combined with the True Sail gives you a whole bunch of information. So true wind speed and true wind direction are coming off my coach boat in a version basically of what Leandra said at the very beginning, that wind gear is coming live to my coach boat. I take a little SD card, I plug it into my computer, it goes straight into this software. Generally, yeah, it's not perfect. It's not the wind gear on the top of a mast of a 60-foot boat that's been calibrated perfectly, but it's been calibrated, and I'm generally in the vicinity of the athletes, you know, a very high percentage of the time. So at least it's giving some sort of true wind data. And then, you know, it's giving the speed of a ground, the VMG, the, you know, the course of a ground, the true wind angle is calculated, heel, pitch, rudder angle. I think this trim here was actually the load on the main sheet. The point is that there's a ton of information to give into this analytics software, and then you can see how it's broken up into, these are all the tuning runs basically that I recorded throughout the day. So it's kind of nice in that sense where it's not recording all day and it's not giving you a massive amount of data. It's, you know, it's recording when you press on the True Sail, you press log and then you stop it. And hey, you can make a note, that was a good tuning run. You can compare the numbers, you have the visual, you can get deeper into the analytics and what everything means. It's all logged on this website interface. So the data is stored there. Another good perk of it, you don't have to pay for that like data storage space, you're paying for the whole package. You know, the last thing I'll say with this is that I have a psychology degree in, you know, from school. So Luther's always looking at me saying like, well, I don't understand. How do I plug this in? What's the like 1, 2, how do I do this? And, you know, I'm fine. I'm supported by Riley, who is a technical engineer, but this stuff I figured out with a week's work of playing around with it, plugging different things in, figuring out what did and didn't work. And I'm able to use it. So, and that is like literally zero engineering background, but just the intuition of what it is. So it can be complicated, but I would also say that the way that they're making these softwares is getting better every single day. It's becoming more intuitive for people to plug information in, get an output, and answer some of the questions that they want to have answered. So.
Cool. Well, guys, we got about 10 minutes left. Oh, look at that. So we can have some questions that Stu might feed us. I think one that I was posing to you guys was, you know, this is my situation. If I only want to have 1 or 2 pieces of technology and use it, how do I get started? And what would you recommend is my easiest road to be a user and believe? Especially if I'm like a college coach, let's say, or an Opti coach.
Well, to start, the must-haves is an iPhone 11, extremely powerful. You can get weather apps, you know, you can use it even as a tracker. The new camera is unbelievable in 4K, and the stabilizer on it is way more advanced than the previous one. In fact, we learned that in number 12 has issues, so don't go there. So if you go to get a phone today, don't go to the latest one, go to number 11 if you're a coach. And it's also amazing to be able to come into the dock and share, airdrop it to your sailors so they can go home and, have dinner and look at the videos. And that allows you to have different levels of efficiency as a coach. So it's a must have that we didn't have in the presentation here in the as a gadget, but that's number one. And the second one will be one of the GoPros to start with, because the GoPro, now if you do have an iPhone, you can put in a boat. There's multiple ways to plug in the boat, and they come with the GPS. So if you don't need a GPS, at least you have really good videos from on board. And I will call those the top two, the most haves. And then you can go into the next ones. Clearly, if I need to rank a number 3, will be an athlete's, let's say a Garmin watch, because they have tracking, but also then you can get into the whole fitness side of things for coaching. There's a lot of also software out there. We talk about boat performance, but there's a lot about athlete performance onshore, and fitness and diet and sleeping patterns. So in between a phone and a Garmin watch, that's another one. Actually, we missed to put it there, right? Now we're learning. But I will rank it as a number 3. And then probably go into the other tools that we showed you. But
Yeah,
those are my top 3.
cool. We got a question. Have you guys heard of any yacht club programs or maybe college programs that are using some of this technology for team racing analysis?
I do believe, as much as I know, I do believe a lot of the yacht club is using tracking software in their Opti program and laser program. I'm not quite sure if they use it for team racing. I know they're very good at it, especially in the Opti class. So we can ask them, but yeah, I know they're use it.
Cool. We had another question. What's a better way to share video other than Dropbox? I mean, for me, and Leandro just said it, it is a no-brainer. AirDrop off the iPhone as soon as they have the sails down or done hosing their boats off. It is crazy how fast that technology is.
Yeah.
And I agree with Leandro. The resolution and the stability of the iPhone 11. If I get the coach boat in the right place, if you download the Williford footage that we put up this morning, they're going to want to use that footage for hearing my coaching tips, for watching themselves sail, but they're also going to post that on Instagram and use it for fundraising because the footage is so good. And anytime we can get the sailors to look at video in detail and listen to coaching when they're not on the water, it doesn't get any better than that. So Sally, do you use anything besides Dropbox and AirDrop?
No, we do the same. We AirDrop before we leave the boat park. And one thing I learned from you, Luther, is like, yeah, you can describe stuff on the video, but you can also teach on the video. And once you've like understood the point you want to get across, it might be, right in the moment, or it might be after 1 or 2 runs, to make sure you make a concrete video where it's to the point, precise information. And I found that huge with some of the up and coming NACRA sailors, because it speaks loads. And then, they're actually watching it in their own time. And then on our WhatsApp group, they'll come back to me with some questions, or that'll be our topic in the morning about stuff that they saw that, that I facilitated with communication. So we do that. And then I do break down the video, the stuff that I want to keep for different uses on the Google Drive, just with different teams and different folders.
Okay.
But that does take money to store, essentially.
Yeah. And one additional tip on that is, I'm really disciplined about every time I start a clip, I say, hey, this is after we stopped and ate bars and talked about X. So, it's so easy for us to get at the end of the day to look at clips, but we don't know, is this the beginning? Is this the end? What have you told us? So I think it's super helpful to do that. Let's see, we have a question. What are your go-to apps or websites for weather forecasts?
I got a whole slew of them here. Predict Wind, Sailflow, What else is on my list here?
I also use iWindsurf because it's free to see weather stations around you in your area, so you have real-time weather, weather map, and more into the big picture myself. This is personal, but I use Weather Map Plus, which is free but really accurate. I just turned my phone because it was making too much noise, but there's another ones on the Weather Grid platforms that I use to understand big picture. If we expect, the weather to go in one direction or another one.
Yeah. And Windy's a good one.
Windy. Yeah.
Great.
That actually they've done a lot of upgrading over the.
Great. Okay, well, thank you so much for your presentation. I really like the detail of those pages of the hardware and what you're using them for. And you definitely are showing us the full candy shop. And these two they're kind of the people I like to talk to about this, because they know my level, and they're also checking out all the brand new toys. So feel free to connect with them and see what they're doing 3 weeks from now. Or I know Leandro every week is like, "You're not going to believe what I did today." He's got a new puppy. I bet he's probably tracking that dog to the last year or something. But anyway, thank you so much. And Stu, back to you.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you guys. Really appreciate this. The presentation will be posted again under the agenda listing at the bottom of this page shortly. If anybody wants to go back and take a look at it, it'll be up there by the end of the day. We're going to take about a 15-minute break, and then we're going to jump into Mitch Brindley's presentation right about 2:15. So again, Leandro, Sally, thank you guys, and we'll be back shortly.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That was fun.
Great job,
Yeah, it
guys.
was good. So we're still live, but
Yeah.
doesn't mean we can't talk.
Leandro, have you GPS chipped your puppy yet? You just like sort of track it around?
No, Luther just gave me a great idea. I'm gonna do the
You
tracking
guys
part
have
of my
seen-
puppy.
I
You've
tried
seen
to
the
convince my
commercial.
wife to do that with my
Yeah.
children. It didn't go over well.
You can test the rest of the
commercial with
trackers.
the
Right.
woman on the park bench who's put her walking sensor on her dog, and she just sits there and like, "I'm up to 6,000 steps" or whatever.
I get that from my phone every day. Oh, you reached your target of 7,500 steps today. I'm like, whoa.
When
That's
I
what I
log
forget.
on to iBooks, I think is what it's called, I'll read something for 3 minutes and it'll go, "Congratulations, you achieved a new milestone." That's kind of sad.
Good.
Oh, my sister was watching. Oh, that's nice.
My mom, a 90-year-old mom, is going to finish up from start to finish day 3. So
Cool.
Wow. Kudos to her. Superhero.
Yeah.
She's quite the critique. I've talked to her at the end of every day. She's
Oh,
like,
you're gonna hear about me then. You're gonna, oh,
Will,
you speak English.
she has detail on every single presenter and the material.
How can you put someone that doesn't speak English there?
Luther, is she your toughest critic?
No, I think I'm probably my toughest critic, but or there's probably plenty of them out there that just don't tell me anything.
Just gonna throw this up. There we go.
All right, team. I'm gonna get going.
All right.
Be
Thank
back
you
in
so
the water
much.
tomorrow.
Thank you, Leandro.
Thank you for everything.
I'm
Thank
out of
you,
here
Sally.
too. See you guys.
All right.
All right, I think we're just going to take a minute and to get things kind of queued up here first. We can still see your screen. So you're good, Mitch. All right, cool. Well, I think we'll kick off just about a minute early here. Gives me a chance to just say my usual spiel, and then Luther, I'm going to hand it over to you. Again, want to thank Regatta Craft Mixers for continuing to support this endeavor. Really appreciate their support and also their product. As you can see, I got a couple of them behind me, and they're pretty awesome. So if you want some of your own and you haven't filled out the evaluation yet, please do so. The links are on this page. You can do the ones for any of the days you've seen, Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday. And at the end of it, you'll have the ability to put in your info, and they'll send you a really cool gift pack. So please do that if you haven't. The feedback's helpful to us, and you get something awesome out of it as well. And so we're into the home stretch here. Again, really great presenters we've had so far, and we're fortunate to have a repeat performance from Mitch Brindley, a different topic, same great presenter. And Mitch, how are you today? You're there, I can see you.
He's not hearing us.
Thinking. I sent the
Okay,
There we
sorry,
go.
I realized I still had the YouTube playing in the background, and so it was got to start over and share my screen again.
Create the feedback loop there. So well,
Oh
again,
yeah, it was freaking me out.
Awesome. Well, thank you for joining us. Glad to have you back again. Before you jump into it, Luther, I'm going to hand it off to you.
Yeah, and I want to thank the Regatta Craft Mixers too. Stu, it's true that Mitch ordered 3 cases of mixers this week.
I can neither confirm nor deny.
You can tell Mitch and I go back. Hey, I just wanted to take about 30 seconds of Mitch's time here. Actually, Mitch and I are having a discussion earlier this week about how we got into coaching. And I think we were both really good sailors that kind of just had good timing and didn't know that was going to be our career. And then there we were. And for me, one of the things that looking back was a game changer is I went to a week-long sports psychology course in Colorado Springs. And I know that has been a lot of the basis of how I think and approach coaching and working with the athletes. And then I was also lucky that we had a sports psychologist who was very experienced named Jerry May for many years, and had quite a tight relationship with him. And the sports psychology world, it's definitely something that us coaches need to know about. I've been on teams where there's been a sailing coach and then a sports psychologist, and they were 2 separate worlds. And I'm here to tell you that was not the best thing. Each one of us sailing coaches needs to have a lot of this material, or at least knowledge of this material, under their belt. There's still, of course, room and opportunity to use a sports psychologist as well. But I just encourage all of us to, you hear us talk about the human part of coaching, the listening, just all of that. It's just so important to what we do. And then later in my career, I started running into a bunch of ODU athletes that seemed to be quite sharp on sports psychologist relationship with a coach. And I discovered that Brad Funk and Sally and Anna Tobias they all came through Mitch. And so when we were planning this, I asked Mitch if he'd be interested in talking about how he introduces them to sports psychology and his methods. So I'm excited to hear this, and I'll pass it off to you, Mitch.
Thanks, Luther. I really appreciate it. And it's again, like I said before, it's great watching the presentations. And I was really hoping to be able to connect while Sally was still on. Always love catching up with her too. So yeah, I started thinking a lot about the sports psychology component in coaching years ago, and early on, and I realized that we spend so much time in other aspects of our sport and our training, and I'm someone that can get easily distracted. And so as Tyler Colvin walks into the classroom, I'm distracted, but that was something I was thinking about when I was on the water myself sailing. And, from a sports psychology perspective, I realized that there's so many things that get in our way while we're on the water. And we're always, trying to minimize those negative influences and those distractions. And certainly, that's where having a good relationship with the coach that can help, and a good relationship with a sports psychologist that can help. And certainly over the years, my understanding has gotten greater, and my experience has evolved. And I one of the things I've learned is that we have a lot of limitations as a coach. One of the many books I read, it was, one of the things was about reminding yourself as a coach that you are the coach. Know what you can handle and what you can take on. And so I'm a big believer in that, and how we handle, some of the different tasks. I'm not, if my team is once doing workouts and physical training, I'm not the one that's going to design their workouts for them. I'm going to leave it to a strength coach. And if if we need dietary information, they're going to a nutritionist. If they need, other, psychological support and stress management and other things along those lines, we're going to get them in to see a counselor, a psychologist, and so forth. And so, but there are things that the coach can do is be that facilitator, and in particular be an advocate, and you can still be part of that process for sure. And having knowledge and some experience helps, but recognize what your role is. And and I'll say also that from a sports psychology standpoint, we do have many limitations on us, and it is such an important part of a competitor, of being a good competitor and being a great athlete. And this first quote here, actually, I inserted it today, came from, and so those of y'all that know me will recognize the name. That's my wife, and she tells me this over and over again. It's so easy as a coach to have these great expectations, and someone, and we get frustrated if for any reason they can't perform like we want them to perform, or think they should be able to perform. And a lot of times there's a health and wellness issue there, and certainly from the mental health part of it, and that's essentially what we're talking about in many ways. That this having that relationship with an athlete will help them manage their attitudes and their stress levels, and their understanding of themselves, and which increases their comfort level, and and performance. So I thought that was a good place to start. And the way I'm going to do this is, as I said, when I understand my limitations, I am a coach, and I understand my limitations, and I spend a lot of time referring people to for better counseling than I can provide. Sometimes talking with me helps a lot, or talking with one of my one of the assistants helps, but we've got to know when to call the professional, and don't be afraid to refer up and refer on. So throughout this presentation, I'm trying to keep it simple and kind of timely. And so I encourage you all to send Stu the questions, and just so the viewers know how this works is, I'm on the Zoom call with Stu and US Sailing and Luther, but y'all are watching on YouTube, and I don't see the YouTube comments, and so he's going to feed them to me. But as those come in, I'd love to address things. I'm going to try to really save some time to answer questions and just make comments. I'm just going to try to tell you what my experiences are, because I've been so fortunate to be part of this, even a very small part of some the pathways that some of our great athletes have been on at Old Dominion, whether it's Sally, who was just here, Anna, Deb Capozzi, Brad, so many others, and the names that you all might recognize from the sailing world. But we've also had, these great highlights, like, getting to watch our sailors compete in the Olympics, but there've also been, tremendous challenges, and, being part of some, tragedies and everything else. And so there's so much that come into play with this part of our sport. And so when I try to look at what I do along this, this realm of sports psychology, and that relationship with an athlete or a team member, is really to understand what my purpose is. What's my role as coach, and why, kind of, it's like that whole thing, what's your purpose in life? And that's kind of what it's my purpose as a coach, to help and guide people to so they can perform at their peak, to their greatest abilities, and have an impact, whether it's on the water or off. That's where I view my purpose. Relationships, where so much of what we do is, as a coach, is involved with that relationship, whether a relationship with an athlete, on the water, at a national championship, or at just a local. I was coaching some very novice sailors this past weekend at a little laser radio clinic, and had a really good time doing it, and developing those relationships with those young sailors, and their first time into a radial, for example. It was you got to pour that, pour what you're doing into that relationship too. Individuality, I mean, just understand that, one, you have to respect the individual that you're working with, but also kind of understand your own individuality, that you don't have to fit the mold of everyone else. It's kind of the interesting thing about being a college sailing coach is there are not very many of us. And any of y'all that are sailing coach as your primary form of employment, it's hard to, people ask what you do. Sometimes you don't want to get into it because they don't understand. When you tell them you're a sailing coach, they say, oh, sailing, and they do the rowing thing. And so I know we've all gotten that. But, it's okay to be, to express your own individuality. And certainly in the coaching world, we have a lot of real characters, and so that are not afraid to express their individuality. And as a coach, encouraging that expression within your own team members is important. Diversify. Kind of diversify your influences. Seek guidance from a lot of different places. When you think about who your own mentors are, where they're coming from, what their experiences are, just diversify what you're reading, what you're listening to, what podcasts you're listening, whatever it is. I think it's helpful to have a kind of a broad base. What we're specializing in as coaches is really defined in many ways. And so when you can diversify yourself, I think that helps you. It kind of increases the knowledge base, and sometimes it gives you greater points of contact with your athlete. So whether it's reading or whether it's running or something like that, or other hobbies or activities, it's nice to be able to talk to an athlete about something other than what you're seeing on the water. And so it can help with a bond. And then empathy, gosh, there's having, be able to express empathy and emotion when you're working with your athlete is obviously a real critical component. So here, psychological skills are the foundation of mental wellness. And so, when you think that mental, if we're training our body so hard, tuning the boat and trimming the sails, we need to train the mind too. And that's where the psychological skills come in. And that's, there's some things that we can do as coaches to help our athletes. And there is a ton of, there's so many, there are plenty of books, and there are lots of great professionals out there. I know Tim Herzog, who's worked with, sailing and is a sailor, and he was just on the other evening. And so there are people like that can help teach some of these skills to your athletes. But part of that is saving time within your training schedule to make sure that the athlete is training their mind as well. And whether it's a breathing routine or mindfulness routine that's helping stress management, good sleep habits, all those kind of things. And then that's a big part of it. I talk a little bit, because I hate for people to think that I'm trying to say I'm a sports psychologist. I'm not. And so to really understand what the sports psychologist does, the big thing is that a sports psychologist is actually a licensed clinical practitioner, and they're using all it's a proficiency that using the skills and knowledge of psychology. And so that's the fundamental part of it. And so I never want someone to think that I'm trying to be the expert, because I'm not. I'm just sharing my some of my crazy experiences in this space. So this is anyone that's been in my office knows this spot. This is the chair on the left is generally the one that's used. I refer to this jokingly as the crying chair. And oftentimes I warn people when they come in my office, so they haven't been in there before, that when they sit in that chair, it may invoke tears, and it does. I don't always have the Kleenex out, but I had to put that out as a prop. It's usually in the desk drawer for my own use. But it's, I want the athletes, when they want to come in and talk, that they have a safe place. I want to make sure that they trust me, obviously respect me. It's always something that we work on as coaches. And I know we talked about that when I spoke yesterday, and Luke has talked about some of the same thing. I mean, it's just such an important part of being a coach, is that trust and respect in order to have great conversations, empathy and understanding as well. And then another thing that often gets left out is vulnerability. One, knowing that your athletes, how vulnerable they are, but also show your own vulnerability to them. And I think that when you share, they share. And it's not like you're sharing a burden upon them for them to carry, but you just want them to understand that, where you're coming from, and how, what your knowledge base might be and what your experience, what your lived experience is and how vulnerable you may be. And I think that can be helpful as part of that, that athlete coach relationship is maintain the vulnerability. But, having that safe space, for the athletes come in, and it's cool that they come in, but I'm sure I could bring Luther to tears if I had him sit on that chair too. So, it's okay. The big part of that, creating that environment, is being an active listener. Invite the communication, and recognize what your body language is, and this is on the water and off. And the big part of body language as a coach is, stand by, remove my sunglasses. I'm going to do a demonstration, but normally we have our sunglasses on. Sorry, I didn't have a prop. Oftentimes a coach is like this on a boat. You got your sunglasses on. Nowadays we have got a buff or, of course, a face mask, and you're sitting there cross-armed, and this doesn't look very appealing for someone to come up to you when you're standing like this. And so, recognize that your own body language is going to invite or reject communication. And I don't like going outside without sunglasses on. It's not because I'm cool. It's just because I wear contacts. I've got light eyes, and but I've learned if I really want to talk to someone, and this picture is not a good example, but we're not having it. I don't think Esteban and I are having a deep conversation. I will. I know if I really want to communicate with someone, I'll take my glasses off, and I think that's a really important part. Also, a lot of times I'm standing out, my arms crossed. It's not because I'm trying to, do that. It's just how I stand. I'll make sure I put my arms down my side, or, put it in my pocket, or do something else. And so we know to read their body language, but make sure you understand that they're reading yours as well. I talked about this the other day, creating dialogue. I think that's a really important part in coaching is creating the dialogue, asking questions, and then listen for the answers. And, ask a follow-up question, and that really indicates that you're listening. So remove distractions. I know when people come into my office, my desk is a mess. I had to clear it off for that picture earlier. But I always shut my laptop when they come in, just so they know that I'm here to listen to them right now. Close the screen, turn your phone upside down, turn it off, whatever. And a lot of times I take notes, and I'll ask them, is it okay if I write this down? Because I want them to know that what they're saying is important enough for me to listen and remember. And so I think that helps. We ask them to take notes all the time. We tell them, get your sailing notebook out. When they're talking to us, we should take notes too. And I don't know, it's just one of the ways I remember. And so I take notes, and sometimes just jot a couple of things down. I think that might mean a lot. So provide feedback to the conversation. You're not trying to solve their problems. Just provide some feedback, and it's and the other thing is try to defer judgment. Oh, that was stupid. When they come in and talk to me because they just, whatever an 18 to 22-year-old might have just done, a problem they've gotten into, or a problem they have, I'm not going to say, well, that was, try not to say that was stupid or anything like that. So try to defer judgment on it, and respond appropriately. And so, and then, again, show empathy. Sometimes it's just like, wow, that sounds really hard. That must have been tough. And so those kind of things I think really help in getting them willing to talk, because if something's going on with your athlete and they're carrying that, even though we hope that when they go on the water they're leaving everything on shore, and it's one of the great things about getting ready to getting to go to sailing practice, and is that they get to leave their challenges that and they're on shore. They get to leave those when they go out on the water, but so often that those thoughts and emotions that they've had do bubble up, especially in times of stress. And so it's so important that we that we give them an opportunity to have the outlet with you and help manage some of that. And I know that those are the kind of things that Tim Herzog probably talked about. So, so the other big thing is teaching the team how to be supportive. When I was looking for this other slide, you'll see a bulletin board, and where I kind of stick some notes from time to time. And it's not a great photo because it's a little dark, but it's kind of a cool photo. 5 of the guys skateboard, 4 of them skateboard, and 1 of them kind of pulling all of them. And that's the kind of thing that you want to teach and support. And so showing teammates how to be supportive of one another, and how to fill each other's tanks, and how to kind of be a positive influence, and have a supportive role, and let them understand that is what they do as a teammate, is that they've got to sometimes you got to tow your 4 friends on skateboards, So I thought that was kind of cool. That's kind of one of my favorite things that I've seen recently. So in order to have dialogue, kind of create an atmosphere where, it's not overt sports psychology every day when you come into the Sailing Center here at ODU, but it is something that we address from time to time. And we don't, it's like we do some mindfulness or meditation or, deep breathing after practice or anything like that very often. It's not part of our normal regular routine. And I'm sure we should do a better job at it. But, one of the things I just to remind the team that this is important, on one of our bulletin boards, a couple of bulletin boards, I stick up little notes, and here's some things that were on one of the bulletin boards, and some of them have been here for a long time. There's an article that quotes Jerry May, and there's a picture of Sally and Debbie there, and I got a lot of those kind of things. It was just kind of cool, and hopefully the team reads them from time to time, and but it just shows that these things are important. And sometimes it's kind of cool, the 10 things that athletes do, and these are all part of the mental skills training that are that provide insight. These two, the 86,400 seconds, and this 10 things the great athletes do. Those came from sports psychologists that we've used at ODU. Dr. Jared Spencer, he's got a program called Mind of the Athlete, and we started using him. We actually haven't met with him in a couple of years, but when we started using him, what I liked about Dr. Spencer is that it was he wasn't just there to try to solve someone's problems. It was more about teaching skills and kind of the base knowledge, some of the fundamentals and some of the fundamental principles of psychology that are behind the challenges that we face when we're, doing our athlete thing, when we're in the middle of competition or the middle of training, and it wasn't just using the sports psych team as a crutch, or but using it as a mode of training. When we train, when we go sailing, any athletic performance, but just like sailing, we practice. We do this front load training. We're training in advance for a future competition. If we just had never practiced, we show up at regatta, we know we're not going to do very well. And so we front load our training. We know that all the time in the weight room, it's anticipation of a future event or future activity. And all the time the water is the same way. And so if we're front loaded training in the other realms, doing some front loaded training and developing the mental skills and proper mental health, I think it's a really great way to go, and should be part of your training plan. So anyway, there's my some of the stuff that's on my bulletin board. And nowadays a lot of times you just fire out an email, or you find a cool article or podcast, I might send it to the team, and there's so much good stuff out there. But having it just stuck on a bulletin board is kind of cool too, especially if you have a facility to do that with. So, let me go click back over this, go back to one of these skills just to remind me of what I'm thinking about. The big thing about sports psychology is the psychology part, is we know that it's a problem if your athletes just totally stress. You see somebody that does great in practice, but they get to regatta, they struggle, and they're having a hard time with their own confidence and so forth. And that's the easy part, is helping them get through that. But the real thing that we have to remember, especially those that deal with 18 to 22-year-olds, is, well, anyone really, is the whole mental health aspect of life that is overlooked, undertreated, and so we're dealing with elite athletes. Some of us are dealing with elite athletes. Some of us are dealing with people that want to be elite athletes and are on their path. And those are just a subsection of the population. 1 in 5 adults in the U.S. experiences mental illness. So that's a lot. And you can't think that they're not your athletes too, because they are. Because people that suffer from mental illness are also businessmen and women, doctors and lawyers, artists and musicians and movie stars, and everybody. And so they're also athletes, and there are a lot of incredible athletes that also and sailors that have suffered from mental illness. And so you recognize that as a coach, to be the advocate, you need to, that's where you can help. That's where you can provide intervention, especially with someone that is struggling with a illness or mental injury, essentially, that they need support beyond what you can provide. And there are resources available, thank goodness, but they're not a ton. And the social stigma around it prevents people from seeking the care, or hampers people from seeking the care that they may need, that will help them succeed and live fulfilling lives and everything else. And so the sports psychology aspect of it, and seeking getting someone you feel is really struggling, and because you see them freak out on the water, maybe lose their cool with a teammate or something like that, or whatever it is, and just over and over again you see they're struggling, or you recognize some other signs, that if you can help them get care through a sports psychologist, they're more likely to have that care, and that sports psychologist is going to look at what the underlying conditions are and issues are that may need to be treated and or addressed. And so that's something that I've always looked at. When we've advocated at Old Dominion to have sports psychology resources available to the sailing program and other athletes, is that it was an opportunity, just a baseline opportunity to help provide support for our for this population, and especially the 18 to 22-year-olds that we're dealing with as college students. But that's it's a lot. That timeline in in the emotional and mental development of someone is frequently when some of these illnesses manifest, and so whether it's major depression or an anxiety disorder or a behavioral illness, like bipolar or something like that. A lot of times that's where these things kind of start to manifest, and especially in this, and oftentimes related to a stressful life situation. And maybe you might just, maybe there's been a trauma in one of your sailors' lives, whether it's something, something like losing a family member or something along those lines. You just might need to help them get through a difficult period and helping them find the resources available. And so, that's where starting as having the trust and respect, so they'll talk to you and you can help, and they'll listen and help them find and seek greater support is so important. Those on campus, high school and college campuses, especially college campuses, there are resources on campus available for provide that. But even on a college campus that might have that has counseling services, is still very difficult process. It's just there's never as many counselors, as much time as there is demand with this population. And so that's where, as a coach, you can just help them, as a kind of almost as a surrogate, help them through some of these challenging parts.
Hey, Mitch, just got a message from the board. It was a quote from Sally. And it was actually a question I was saving for you.
Okay.
Is, we're sailing coaches. And then it seems like there's this threshold where we want people to know that we can connect on more than just how tight to trim the jib and how hard to roll tack. And I think for some people that can be a little awkward. But it's and it tends to be one-on-one, and of course in our safe sport world, that's a dance in itself. But it was really refreshing to see Sally's quote. She said, biggest Mitch lesson she takes with me daily is that you said, I care about your sailing, but I care more about you leaving here as a better person. And I think that's a challenge that we all have, to let our athletes know that we are more than a roll tack and whistle guy,
right.
And that there's that avenue, and hopefully the first time we're interacting with them on that other side of the threshold, it's not in the crying chair because they're crying.
Right.
I mean, sometimes it is.
Right.
But I think I know that for both you and I, the athletes that we've worked really well with, somehow we got there smoothly. And then when it did maybe come to some crying or some issues that really needed to be resolved, it was so much easier.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's having that relationship with them and that understanding that, when things, when there's a bigger problem, they can come into the office. But a lot of times what you're addressing is in the coach mode. They come up alongside you and you just say, what's up, and that's, and that may be it. Or, while they're rigging or launching, that's, I love it when I get a chance to just, have one of my athletes in the powerboat for a few minutes. Like, if there's someone that shows up late for class, late to practice from class. And so I'm picking them up off the dock, and it's, a couple of minutes where I, as I take them out to their boats, like, how's everything going? Well, how are classes? What's your, what's the, again, it's creating that dialogue. What's the biggest challenge right now with class?
I really like you when I hear you say, I heard you say it yesterday and today, it's almost when they're frustrated, that is just a great time to connect because
Yeah.
I feel your pain.
Yeah. Wow.
I'm right. Maybe I'm not right there with you, but I can relate. And that opens the door to what you're talking about.
It does. It just, if you can let them, and sometimes you get that emotional dump upon you, and it's like, oh, okay, this is it, this is happening. And it's like, yeah, all right, that was tough. That was a hard race, or wow, that's a lot going on right now. And so let's see what we can do to get through this together,
I kind of, yesterday I merged your talk and Phil's talk about coaching fails in my mind.
Yeah.
And one of the ones I wrote down in my notebook is that many times we'll find that situations are brewing. We're starting to sense that, there's a behavior that, is my role as a coach to really address this, or maybe it'll go away tomorrow.
Yeah, right.
And then it doesn't go away. And I'm an introvert. You're a little bit of an introvert. We tend to think about it for a long time. And my new rule is if I can't sleep because it's bothering me, then I'm probably beyond. I should start addressing this.
Right.
But I know that's a trick. I don't want to be the first guy to jump on every potential yellow light.
Right.
So how do you approach that?
So that's your idea about, is it something you lose sleep over, then you make the call, and I think that is for me too. And I have to be an extrovert sometimes, but I'm really much more comfortable within. And but I'll make excuses to myself. Oh, I need to call so-and-so and ask them about what's going on. And, I'll just go, oh, well, they're probably in class right now. Or, oh, they're, at work. And, just finally it's like, okay, I keep thinking of this. I should do it then. It's a reason it's in my mind. So I need to make that call and just do that check in with them. And sometimes it's I'll just send a text. Hey, how's it going? Thumbs up, thumbs down type thing. And one thing dealing with this generation of athletes that we're working with now is that they've always got the phone with them. And I know if they're not responding, it's a problem because their phone is there. They got the message. And so, so that is kind of can be a flag. And so that might help me decide, all right, I need to check in here, do a little bit more, maybe, meet up with someone. I had one of my, I had an individual in my office a couple, recently, and they wanted to get help for something. And I knew, when they came in and sat down in the chair, I picked up the phone right then because they had the, the courage to come in, to walk over to the building and come in and see if I was there. And, especially in this world, we're not supposed to interact with anyone personally. They came in. It was worth it for me to make the call with them right there on speakerphone, and let's get things done. And again, like dealing with a counseling services situation, you want instant feedback and you're not always going to get it. And so, a couple of days passed and, hadn't heard anything, same thing. It's like, all right, I need to check in. I'm thinking about this. It keeps coming up in my mind. I need to check in. And so that's, you don't want to always insert yourself because you can't be their problem solver, but sometimes it's just giving them an opportunity to, help them. I guess you're giving them an opportunity to use you to help get more assistance, I guess.
Yeah. I got two more to read to you. Molly Vandermoor, great memories in that crying chair. So it's clearly maybe it'll be on your tombstone or something.
A lot of people have ended up in that, it's just, yeah.
Yeah. The other one that is good to hear is Charles Higgins. How can we get to the point where we have as many coaches listening to this conversation as Luther's boat speed talk?
Yeah, that's
and you know, it's a great point, and I think as much as I rambled on about boat speed for an hour and 20 minutes, you know, there is a lot of detail there, but I think there's less of a proven formula. You know, there's not a tension to pull to. There's not a rhythm of the puff, you know, and obviously we're just barely getting to the tip of the iceberg here today. And Stu's telling me we got 2 minutes left, but yeah.
I think that it is the most important thing that we do. There's no doubt. There's no doubt about it, because it's really, you know, we can work with their sail trim and their boat trim and everything else, and that's gonna get them, you know, across the finish line and help get them on the podium. But you know, these other skills that they need to manage are going to get them through the rest of their life too, and their relationships and their careers and their beyond sailing and everything else. And that's what we're trying to do. Well, there are a couple of things I just want to share. This additional resources, Stu's going to have this. It'll be posted online. There's some great resources here. There's a ton of, but the NCAA Sports Institute, Sports Science Institute, has just a great starting point with a lot of articles about athletes, for athletes and for coaches. The JED Foundation specifically deals with mental illness and with young adults. And the National Alliance for Mental Illness, also a good website. Some telehealth, that's the realm these days. Obviously, the National Suicide Prevention Hotline and all these kind of, those are, you know, great resources. One thing that popped on my inbox on Monday, or whatever, earlier this week, whatever day that was, is this, it's New York Times opinion video from Lexi Pappas, who is an Olympian runner, All-American from Dartmouth in Oregon, I think. But when you get this video, watch the link. It's really cool and powerful. So check that out. It's just a short video, but you'll want to check that out. So again, anyone has any questions, feel free to send them to me as well. And I'm always happy to answer questions and talk about this. And I've had coaches and that, you know, let me know, you know, that ask me questions or how to handle stuff or any guidance. I'm happy to help you out. So that's all right.
Thank you so much. You know, I think that it's interesting. And the other thing I was stealing from you, you'll actually hear me talk about it in about 8 minutes, is that humans gravitate to pairs. They communicate in pairs. And I know when you and I go sit at a bar or on a coach boat, we talk more about the challenge of the athletes we're coaching than jib trim. It's overwhelmingly to that side of things.
Yeah.
And so I think that Higgins is saying it, you know, you and I are saying it. It's a world that we need to be open to, and it's a world that we need to be better at. Yeah. And I said it poorly at the lead into this call, that I don't believe in that the sports psychologist is separate from the coach. What I meant is that we have to have those kind of personal skills in our toolbox. Yeah. And it's really bad when we say, you know, 100%, I can't deal with that. You know, I can help you with your roll tack, but you need to go talk to somebody else about this human element.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. That's exactly right. That's right. And I think one thing to remember too, for all the coaches, is that, you know, self-care is important too. You know, we're in a job where you're traveling a lot away from, you know, maybe away from your home and family. And so having friends that you can, you know, and that will listen and work with you, you know, just know what you're going through sometimes is very important. I know, like Charles is, you know, it's a great resource for me too. So
absolutely. The third night that I've lost sleep over it, you know, we're at critical zone.
Yeah.
And then after I have the talk, I say, one conversation solves 10 problems.
That's right.
you know, and you just are like,
Yes.
what, you idiot, why didn't you deal with this, you know, a couple nights ago? So,
Yep.
anyway, Mitch, always a pleasure to have you.
Thanks, guys. Thanks,
Looking
Luther.
forward to
Appreciate
seeing
it.
you in real life. For those of you that don't know it, Mitch and I have the same birthday, so we have a big connection.
Yeah, 420. So y'all might all, some of y'all remember that well. We expect gifts, so cards.
All right.
All right, thanks.
Mitch, I'm going to send you a regatta of craft mixers. How's that?
Woohoo!
That work? Yeah, some of those. Awesome. Well, we're not taking a break right now. We're just going to dive into the last presentation of the day, and actually the last presentation of the symposium. Before we do that, though, just wanted to note the links from Mitch's presentation I've been putting into the chat, so you can check those there. And this and all other presentations will be available under the particular days on the agenda, right next to the evaluation link. So hint, hint, please fill that out. There was a comment made about noting that there are some good guidelines for safe sport. Definitely agree with that as well. And the link to safe sport is in the chat there. So good things to check out and kind of peruse at your own speed. So with that, Luther, take us home.
Okay. I won't keep us too long here, but it feels right to wrap up what we've done. And then I have just a few coaching things to share before that. So let's get rolling. One of, you know, all the material that I'm using are my challenges, and in some cases how I solved them. And one of the questions I'm always asking myself with my athletes, are we coaching too much? You know, it's a little bit of product of I'm old and there weren't coaches around when I grew up. But I think we all ask that question when we see the efficiency of the hours not being effective. And we know we need to put in the hours, but we know that we want them more efficient. So I just kind of break down my thoughts on that. Are we spending too much time on the water? Am I coaching too much on the water? Am I coaching enough off the water? And I talked about that in my opening segment about how are we helping our athletes when we're not at the club or we're not at the sailing center. But one of the ones that I really like to drive into discussion is when are they learning for themselves? And I think this is a little bit of our dysfunction of today's sailing coach and athlete. You know, I like to coach. I think I'm an effective coach, but I also see athletes that kind of want to be spoon-fed information. And I want them to actually learn when I'm not around. I want them to be motivated and efficient and come up with a good plan when I'm not around. So I think that's a goal for us. Another one that I think about is, you know, sometimes we coach and we coach and we coach, and then I ask myself, well, when are they having fun? And I think that's an essential part of what we do to win, or even not just to win, to enjoy sailing. It's got to be fun. And then I think another point that, you know, I talked to Scott Lindley last night after our call. We were talking about how do you coach feel. And it kind of led me down the trail to him. He's at Fort Worth Boat Club. And, you know, I mean, I was joking with Scott, but not really. Scott and I are not going to get an optimist and figure out what it feels like because it'll sink. But we do want to teach those optimist sailors, what are the things that we are feeling? How do you make the boat accelerate? And I suggested to him, well, maybe taking, you know, a couple of them out and crewing for them on a J22 and teaching them, you know, the same skills we're talking about, but experiencing it together. And, you know, I think the variety in boats and the situations and personnel, it's incredibly fun. And it's what most of us older people did when we were kids. And I think that made us very versatile sailors, and it made us great learners. So I think we should think creatively about the variety. Of course, when I ask myself, how can I push them more? Of course, that starts with me pushing myself more. I can't just sit at my desk and, say, come on, be better, and then, play guitar all day. And then the last one I wrote here is creativity of the teacher is the delight of the student. I can't tell you, when I change up my coaching game, the drill, or think of something creative, the positive response that it gets from my sailors. And I think that's just one that we have to remember and we have to keep utilizing. Oh, I see I'm not even in slideshow here. Hang on. Okay, this is really the notes for, if you look at the bottom, there's a link to how to practice by yourself. And actually, I wrote this to Eric and Luke as they started setting up and training in Houston. It's just my outlook on a training day. We were going into the 2-month block, and my voice to them was, whether it's personal or coach sailing, 3 hours or more on the water is the expectation and norm for professional sailors. Now you can fill in the blank for the level of sailors that you have, but the point I was trying to make to them was, we are quick to get distracted by, I have to fill this form out, or I have to go to the grocery store, or I have to go to the gym. And all of a sudden the hours on the water can get reduced to an hour and a half. Maybe there's a season that's the truth, but honestly, for me, I can't go sailing for less than 3 hours. I feel like it's just not going to get the job done. So everything I do, if I say I'm going to go sailing tomorrow, it is surrounded by what are going to be the choice 3 hours of the day to do that. And I'm not going to let anything else affect that. So anyway, that's what that slide's about. And I really encourage you, if you haven't seen my PowerPoint, or it's actually a presentation on practicing alone. It's not just about practicing alone. It's got some things that are helpful for just practicing in general. But I encourage you to check it out. And I think Stu has that link posted on the Symposium site as well. Let's see here. Okay, I wanted to talk to you a little about something that I came up with when I was training in the pandemic with Luke and Eric. I called it Phase 2. It occurred to me that on almost every practice that most of us do, we go upwind for an hour and a half and we get used to the condition. Maybe at first they're not quite trimming the rig right, and then their technique gets worked on. And at the end of an hour and a half, we feel pretty good, especially the boat that's going faster. And this, some of what Charlie was saying this morning related to this thing. But I decided let's not turn downwind and say we're good. I said to them, let's just stop. Let's highlight what we've learned. Let's take a 20-minute break to eat, drink, and relax. It's not like, we got to go home because the sun's going down. And then I would tell them, as you're getting recharged, it's now time to put together what I'm going to call the Phase 2 effort and focus. And basically, our starting point is going to be what we normally would say is the best we got that day. I feel really good in this condition. And I want us at that point in the day to say, we're feeling good, but what would the world champion look like in this condition? Or what would the Norwegian guy, who's one of the best in this condition, look like? And now let's approach sailing for another half hour upwind or 45 minutes and have maximum effort, concentration, and let's sail as the best we can. And so it was a whole new level of performance that we were demanding of ourselves. And the first day we did it, it was impressive, I think, to both of them, how much better they sailed for that last 45 minutes. And it became almost a treat, or they would look forward to the part of the day when I would announce, okay, you're good, but now we're going into phase 2 training. So it's just something to share with you, kind of a mind set that I've been using. You do have to explain it to your sailors before you get out there. I tried it with the Coles sisters last week, and they looked at me. They're like, "We're always trying as hard as we can," and so we had to have a little talk about what I was really trying to get at the next morning. But anyway. Okay, and then now shifting to where we are with what we've done here. You know, we've had 3 days of some pretty good speakers, some good subjects. But you know, if we just stopped at the end of today and said, "See you next year," I would say we're not going to accomplish the goals that I announced at the beginning of this thing. You know, one of the things I want us to do is build a better community, and I want our whole country to improve as coaches. And so here's some steps, some initial steps that I think are important. Recognize and compliment those who are older and younger. You know, I think it's really important for us to realize who we're emulating, and it's important for us to see who's coming behind us and make sure that they're going to be better than we are. You know, the other thing you hear at least us speakers doing it, and I know all of you will do it, is share your detailed thought and passion on our sport and on coaching. It's what we do. And then you heard me say it in the outset, show eagerness to learn, demonstrate the ability to soak up knowledge and apply it. You know, those 3 things should be our code. Okay, and then the actual where do we go from here? I don't think we can use the word community if we don't interact with consistency. So just bouncing back and forth with Stu, you know, I said, "Stu, we should do at least a coaching Zoom that we invite this same community to every quarter, a check-in." You know, I'm not quite sure what it is. Do we really have to have a subject matter to cover? And I think we can all think creatively together on what would be a cool way to do that. But you know, we're a large country. There's a lot of coaches, but Stu, what are our numbers here? It's 100 to 200. There's not, you know, it's not an out of control amount of coaches, and we should really embrace the duty and the challenge that we have, and continue to do this and get better and better. And Stu's working on some ideas on how to do all this. You have anything to share on that, Stu, or?
Just really briefly, 2 different things. When we ran into the pandemic this year, obviously we've had an in-person event for the last few, and we realized we wanted to do something and get creative. So I don't know if anybody who's on this and watching it is familiar with the Aspen Institute. They actually sort of provided the model for this, where there were free sessions with additional ones that were available at a really low fee. And so I think from a US Sailing standpoint, as we go forward, we're going to try and make sure that we're providing content with what's really known as a freemium model, where a lot of it is available to you as members, but there's other stuff that people can add on based around their interest. And as we look at how we build out a coaching education program, our intent is to try and ensure that any of the stuff that you're doing can lead towards a certification or continuing education or furthering your career. Because at the end of the day, what I feel strongly as the director of education is that certification should be a reflection of the education, not a barrier to it. And so we're trying really hard to make sure that, and with the help from people like Luther and all the coaches that you've seen, that we're putting together a program over the next couple of years that's going to be hopefully really interesting and valuable to everybody. So definitely more to come.
Cool. The other one, like I said a minute ago, Mitch's statement yesterday really resonated with me. Humans are wired for paired interaction. And man, it was so much fun. I talked to Scott Lindley while I was grocery shopping about feel. And he got to hear that I couldn't buy toilet paper or whatever. but I'm here to tell you that, look, don't hold back at calling each other, at calling me, at calling Charlie McKee. I think that's really where the great conversations happen. And I think we all should be approachable. And if you look in the next piece of pie, I say, look above, look below, and right next to you. I think we're still just a little too used to, we run program XYZ, or I'm in this discipline, and we don't look at it as the larger product as much as we could. And like I said, we have a great gift that's given to us, that we're not sitting in a cubicle, we're out on the water and we're coaching boats, and we have a great lifestyle and career. So we should really embrace it and share with the other people that have the same occupation. The other one is kind of the mantra of sailboat, of sailing and racing: steel material and methods. Okay, it's the first thing I did when I was a coach. Is Robert Hopkins told me, recruit the girls, get the class going, but also report to me on how you're getting to be a better coach. And I was like, I wonder how I do that. And the first thing I did is booked a plane ticket to Annapolis to go hang out with Gary Bodie for a week. And then it was like, actually James Appel was working for Gary Bodie at the time, and he came out to Long Beach the next week. And I was exactly Gary Bodie on the whiteboard. I stole all his drills and all of his sayings. And, I say that saying, the truth of it is, that's Gary Bodie's line. And now people think that's my line. So steel material, it's what we do. And broaden your focus beyond the normal day-to-day stuff. Think creatively. And I relate Miles Davis music to sailing downwind. My team is sick of me talking about electric guitar playing and how it's the same thing as winning gold medals. We all have our interests, and there's something to be learned from every little place. And I just want you to broaden your focus and think about those things, and think about what you do. Let's see here. Oops. And then just for you, here's my contact information. I'm not interested in getting a fruitcake this December, so don't send me any. But no, it's a joke. I don't want it to be hard for you to get in touch with me. I do have my busy times. If I'm in Palma in March, I might not be the first to call you back. But I want our community to interact, and this is the right way to do it. So that's it. I hope that a lot of people participated in this, got a lot out of it. Certainly give Stu the feedback on whatever mechanism he's using on content, what was good, what could be better. And just remember, this is not the Super Bowl, the centerpiece. This is the beginning of something that we can really achieve together. And we've got this 2028 goal and milestones. So we should have, quite a good 7 years of, I call it, let's rebuild sailing in America. But I think it starts with us, and I know that it will be just, for us, it'll be a much more enjoyable product if we can all be better at it and all work together. All right. Thank you so much. Stu, back to you.
Awesome. Luther, I want to, before we go further, I just want to say thank you to you. This year, this agenda and all the work that went into it. This has been your baby, and you've been involved with this event for a number of years. And we literally, this is no hyperbole, we couldn't have done this without you. And so thank you very much for not only getting the right speakers and folks together, but coordinating and donating your time with everything else that's going on. So just a huge thank you to you, as well as all of our presenters that donated their time. It's been awesome, and it's always great to have you be able to connect with our sailors and our members. With that particular note said, I do want to say that U.S. Sailing is only as strong as our members and our volunteers. And as we go forward, we're going to need as many people as possible to help us achieve what you're talking about and grow this community. And so please, if you're watching this and you have thoughts or feedback, reach out to me, reach out to Luther, share with us how we can help you. That's one of the big things we want to do here. And we want to bring what we're trying to do to you in a way that it's helpful. We don't want to just do it for the sake of doing it. So if events like this are helpful, if you'd like to see more, some of the comments we've gotten so far have been around targeting towards yacht clubs and community sailing centers and high school coaches versus high performance, and having both of those. We hear the feedback and we'll definitely include it. So thank you all for sharing that. Again, I want to thank Regatta Craft Mixers. I know I keep saying it, but these guys, again, without support from organizations like them and companies like them, we can't do this. And this is not the last time you're going to see us having coaching education. We're gearing up for a really great 2021, hopefully virtually and in person, but we'll see what comes. And last but not least, what I'll offer is that there are still spaces in Dave Perry's webinar for tonight. If you're interested, I put the link down in the chat, as well as a bunch of other ones. Thank you all for being here. It's been great having you, and we'll see you all soon.
Thank you, Stu.